I want to welcome everyone that has done to support the Weather City Schools. Thank you for your time. You had a chance to look at your agenda. Are there any changes?
Mission statement.
Okay, we'll do the mission statement. You're gonna do that yourself? All right.
The mission of the Weldon City School District is to create and maintain a highly effective educational system in which every student receives the highest quality education. School employees and parents work together to prepare students to become caring, competent, and responsible citizens who value education as a lifelong process.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hale. Okay, at this time, you had, your agenda. Are there any changes? I would like to make a change, for 5A. Would be the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. The North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, that's 5A.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to add to our discussion, HR assistance.
Okay, so we'll take that down to 10C. Discussion, HR assistant. Are there any other changes?
Yes, sir. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, we need to add somewhere that we go back into closed session. Before we have action from
So we
closed.
do that in the,
All right.
any other changes? Okay, I have a motion to accept the agenda with the recommended changes.
I make a motion to accept the agenda with the changes that were made to the agenda. Second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Hale and seconded by Ms. Harrison that the agenda be approved with the recommended changes. Are there any questions? All in favor, aye.
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 The ayes have it, motion passed. Next, we'll have the minutes. You had those in your possession, and then is there a motion to accept those minutes? Motion to accept the minutes. Motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, then we'll table those.
You got it? Well, that's gonna be a question. Wait,
Well,
you need a second before.
we don't have a second, so we'll table those minutes to next meeting. Okay, number 5.
Good evening to the board chair, vice chair, board members, and to our wonderful community and friends. It is my honor and my privilege to have this opportunity to stand before you tonight and share the great things that are going on at the Weldon City School District. I will begin with recognition and acknowledgement. At this time, I would like to recognize and congratulate Mrs. Valencia Turnish. Ms. Turnish has been an educator for 37 years. She worked with Weldon City Schools District for 21 years and she retired in 2018. However, because of her love for education and the impact she is able to have on student lives, she returned in 2022 as a tutor. As her result of being dedicated, she was chosen as an ambassador by NC for Weldon City Schools. She has been chosen as a recruiter seeking out capable and willing candidates to assist in our students' academic growth and development. NC is a great opportunity for retired teachers and others that meet their requirements. This program is dedicated to training tutors and preparing them to provide our students with skill, knowledge, and building opportunities that is allowing the NC standard course of study. Ms. Turnage is passionate about student learning and believes in her commitment to students, and she encouraged others to do the same. Tonight, I present to you our NC for Ambassador.
Can I say something? Can I say something? I just want to thank the board and the community for allowing me to come back to serve the students at Weldon Elementary Global Academy, because that's where I got my start at. And I actually got my start in Weldon City Schools. I am a product of Weldon City Schools, and I believe in giving back to my community. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay home. Home is where the heart is, and my heart is truly with the children. And if you ask my children, they will tell you I spent money on them at the end of the year because they kept asking me, Miss Turner, you gonna get the gift card? No, I don't have your gift card yet, but I did deliver because it was just one place that had gift cards and the other two didn't. So I just happened to go in there one day and the lady said, how many do you want? I said, 18. She said, you gonna buy 18 gift cards? I said, yes. I said, because I cannot disappoint my babies.
Awesome.
And I have 4 that didn't show up, so I'm saving them for them. If I'm successful, they're going back. But I give back to my community because this is where we grow. We grow from our community, nowhere else. And I'm glad I had the opportunity. And I didn't mean to take up no more of your time. I apologize, but I want to say again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank
It
you.
has been a great experience.
Thank you, Ms. Turner.
Thank you. I would also like to recognize and congratulate Ms. Annabelle Bello. She is assigned at Weldon High School STEM Academy under the great leadership of Mr. Brian Chapman. Ms. Bello is unable to attend the board meeting tonight as a result of her continued dedication to her craft and her students. She is attending the CTE conference in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. However, in her absence and with her permission, I would like to share with you her reward, the reward for her hard work. She received a letter from the United States Congress of House of Representatives, Mr. Donald Davis, Member of Congress and North Carolina General Assembly Senate, Mr. J.J. Chattery, which stated, "Dear Ms. Bello, congratulations on winning the Governor's Education Discovery Award. Your work as an educator is so important to our children of our state. I'm sure you will continue to make our state proud, and I look forward to seeing your continuous success. Again, congratulations on receiving the Educator's Discovery Award. I wish you all the best." Along with her award, she also received $1,200 for professional development. Weldon City Schools appreciate and congratulates both of our great educators. In the month of September, teachers, students, and parent recognitions will begin. All schools will be required to submit the names and a brief overview of their selections. There will be a digital document provided to submit your information monthly. And at this time, I will share with you the Weldon City Schools activities and upcoming events. July 17th through the 20th, Weldon High School's Career Academy conducted their freshman orientation. July the 23rd, 2023, athletic physicals will be provided for middle school and high school students at Weldon High School Career Academy. The physicals will be done by Dr. Miller. On July 26th through the 27th at 8 a.m. until 12 p.m., Corona Valley Early College will be conducting their freshman orientation. August the 2nd, teachers will be returning to their assigned schools. The workday will begin at 8 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. August the 3rd, Weldon City Schools will be having its beginning of the year convocation at the center, which is located on the campus of Halifax Community College, and the times are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. August the 4th will be an optional workday. August 7th, all schools will participate in the Learning Focus Kickoff, which will consist of the Instructional Framework Initiative, which will be carried out on the campus of Weldon Middle School from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And on August the 8th, all schools will continue to focus on the Instructional Framework Initiative and how to incorporate its effectiveness in the classroom. That will be from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., located also at Weldon Middle School. On August the 9th, Weldon Elementary Global Academy will participate in their ongoing training and implementation of levers. During their training, they will be working on Unit 7 from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Weldon Elementary Global Academy. Open house will be August the 10th. All schools in Weldon City School District, in the Weldon City School District, will have an open house to meet and greet parents, guardians, students. And that time will be from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And there will be an optional day, August the 11th. Students will return to school on August the 14th. And the daily schedule for each one of our schools will be, students will arrive at 7:30 a.m. Instructional time will begin at 7:45. Dismissal will be at 3 p.m. This concludes recognitions, acknowledgements, school and community activities, and upcoming events. Thank you for your time, your attention. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Ms. Eason.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Mr. Egan and the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Good evening.
Madam Vice Chair and members of the board. Thank you all for having us here. I am not Dean's evening dean here with us. My colleagues from the department are here with us, but thanks for giving us a little bit of time. I'd like to acknowledge up front too, that I know it's taken us a while to work out joining you all to come and initiate this conversation around the Andrew Jackson School. So we apologize that it's taken so long for us to get here, but thank you for giving us this time this evening. My name is Dr. Darren J. Waters. I am the Deputy Secretary and the Director of the Office of Archives and History in the Department of Natural Cultural Resources. And I know that was a mouthful. But again, like I said, I'm glad to be here. And just to say, in the role that I served in, I also have the privilege and the honor of serving as our state's chief historian and oversee the divisions of the Archives and Records, State History Museums, the State and State Historical Resources, which includes our State Historical Preservation Office, the Office of State Archaeology and Research and Publications, and also the Division of State Historical Sites. And in a few minutes, I'm going to bring Michelle, my colleague Michelle Neer, who's the Division Director for State Historical Sites, up to just share a few comments, specific comments about the Andrew Jackson School and the relationship that we're hoping to build with you all. As you know, our site here, our state historic site, the Halifax State Historic Site, is a neighbor to one of your properties, the Andrew Jackson School. And we're looking for ways to be good neighbors with you and to work with you all to kind of facilitate, some ideas around that particular property. I would like to also acknowledge that our Secretary Reed Wilson, sends his greetings, and he knew that we would be here today. And one of the things that I have been privileged and pleased to learn in my 2 years in this role is the department's deep commitment to deepening relationships around the state. And especially with communities that have been largely unrepresented in many of the things that we do across the state and then the department. The secretary has really charged us with looking for ways to deepen relationships with schools and school systems across the state. And so that is one of the reasons why we're here. And we want to do that in a very authentic way, in a collaborative way. We are trying as a department, the secretary has also asked us to really focus on making educational mission of our department a priority, a top priority in the work that we're doing. And we are doing that, I would say, throughout the department. And I'm pleased to say that we're really pushing that strongly in the Office of Archives and History. And we want to, again, assure genuine and authentic engagement with our state's traditionally underrepresented community. So we are open to hearing how we might develop this relationship, and Michelle will talk a little bit more deeply about that. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Michelle. We'll let her come and give some more particulars about what we're thinking. Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening. I will project it. Again, my name is Michelle Lanier. I am the Division Director of State Historic Sites and Properties. And that entity exists, what the sites within that entity are 26 in number. We're about to be 27. From Mountains to Sea, Roanoke Island Festival Park, all the way to the mountains, the state capitol, the Charlotte Hawkins Brown Museum, and Historic Palmer Memorial Institute, and of course, Historic Halifax. I have been at this work for quite a while and have been to the County of Halifax for many reasons. I came into this department in 2006 as a curator. And then I also served as the inaugural director of the African American Heritage Commission. Then I was tapped by the department leadership to take on the helm of historic sites in 2018. So I've been in this role for 5 years. Our guiding mission, our guiding evergreen value is a value we call true inclusion. And so for us, true inclusion means that we are inclusive in the stories we tell. We are inclusive in who we partner with. And at our best, we're also inclusive in who we're bringing to the table as experts, as vendors, as contractors who are working on our historic structures. Not only that, but we have increasingly become inclusive in terms of how we make decisions and partnering with educators and students of all ages. I will tell you, this county has been a sacred county for me for many reasons. Some of you may know the name of Doc Brown. I remember coming here maybe 2008, 2009, it was not long before he passed away, where I told him that we had an opportunity in Halifax County to do something remarkable. The Roanoke River, as many of you all know, is a route to freedom designated for the Underground Railroad. I was blessed to get to know of that designation, the hard work of Wanda Hunt McLean out of Elizabeth City. She helped to get that river designated. Well, we knew that our property, and as you walk past the Andrew Jackson School down to that river, we know that we're walking in the footsteps of people with names like Tab and Sookie and Piety, who dared to steal themselves away from human bondage. And that river was witnessed, and sometimes that river was actually the route to freedom for them. Well, we went to the federal government, Department of Interior, and we said, we just want a marker that says that we're right here on this Freedom River. We talked to the people and they said, tell me more about Halifax. So we said, well, they had one of the largest populations of free people of color. We said, well, they had one of the largest populations of people who were enslaved, but who were literate, who were enslaved and who were skilled. And we also had not only the river, but we also knew that we had some abolitionist Quakers nearby. We knew that the poet who was born in slavery and wrote poetry about freedom, George Moses Horton. We knew that he was born in this area. We knew there were Black men who had fought in the Revolutionary War. We knew that the freedom struggle during the civil rights period in this region was important to the story of the nation. We knew the story about the Black Second. And so when we shared all of that with the folks up in DC, they said, you don't have just a site, you actually have a district. And they said, not only is that important for you all to know you have a district, there's no other place in the South, the entire South, that has a district that helps to tell the story of freedom seeking. And the only other one in the nation is in the Midwest in Indiana. And even that person is connected to North Carolina, the Quakers out of Guilford. And so you all are, to me, the legacy bearers of those people who understood freedom at every level, including Mr. Andrew J. Jackson. When I came into this role and I understood that there had been some discussions in the past about that property, the first thing I asked is, what's the history of the school? That's what I wanted to know. The second thing I asked was, have we had a conversation that's substantive around how we make decisions and who we engage? And I wasn't satisfied with the answers. I can say that under current leadership with my colleagues, Dean Eatman, who of course loves Halifax down to his core, but also my direct supervisor who you just heard from, Dr. Darren Waters, one of the things that you did not hear him say, I mentioned Free People of Color, his professor and mentor is the famous Dr. John Hope Franklin. He was the last student of Dr. John Hope Franklin, who wrote From Slavery to Freedom. And Dr. Waters is the first African-American in the entire country to be the head historian for a state. So we are at a critical moment with Dr. Waters in leadership, with Dean's in his role, representing the whole state, but certainly Halifax, and with me in my role with having a passion for your stories here. We have a window of opportunity to do something really special. What I would ask is for us to be able to approach you with a couple of different possibilities. One is we want to deepen our relationship. You've heard from Deputy Secretary Waters that we're interested in deepening our commitment to holding up our resources for educators and for schools. So we want to determine, how can we support you? What do you need? Are there ways that we can partner and bring resources to bear to support that? We also want to talk with you about the possibilities of that property, so that Andrew Jackson School, that plot that you know, those plots that it sits on, you walk past it to that Underground Railroad trail. You will see, if you walk that trail, and I invite you to come, I would love to actually walk with you all down that trail since I have the opportunity to curate it. There are multiple signs that lead you down the trail, and then you get to the river, you can reflect on what bravery it took to steal someone's own self to freedom. But that trail, of course, we pass by that school. We'd like to talk with you about how we could have a meaningful conversation with your staff, with your blessing, about the acquisition of that property and the determination of what the future of that property could look like in a collaborative way. Not us telling you this is exactly what it would need to be done, but really discussing what could happen to that property, what is the true condition of the structure, how can we hold on to the name of Andrew Jackson, J. Jackson, and his legacy. So those are things that we really are hoping that we can work with you around. I know we're happy to take any questions if you have any, but that's really what we wanted to start the conversation around, is how can we partner? We do have funds, and we know that that it's important for us to not come to a conversation about a partnership empty-handed. That would not be equitable or fair. So we do have funds that would be a part of that conversation.
Anyone have a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I do remember you from years ago, when you were down at Andrew Jackson for the, you came down for, I think it was either Juneteenth celebration or something. And you talked about it, but I think at that time you were in the role of, with the African American.
Heritage.
Exactly.
Yes, that's correct.
And I was thinking, me personally, thinking of getting Andrew Jackson on the registry for, an African American registry for the state.
Oh, so are you talking about the new signage program that has been established by the African American Heritage Commission? The new marker program, the civil rights program? I want to make sure I understand what you mean by registry.
So that the building would not, because the building has a lot of sentimental value. Building itself doesn't really hold much value, but it's the sentimental value that I'm talking about. And I was thinking of getting it on the national registry list so that it could not be sold, because it has a lot of value in it.
Yes, I
The
think that's,
structure, part of the structure, yes, it has caught on fire, it's been damaged. But some of it is still there, intact. It just needs to be, probably gutted out or what have you.
I actually have had a very similar thought, which is why I asked a lot of questions of people about what's the true condition of the building, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities to hold on to, even if it's a part of it, if some part is with the fire, if that's a part that, we need to think about, the condition of. So a couple of things, the National Register, for historic places, the National Register is, federal, it falls under Department of Interior. And my colleague Ramona Bartos, who also, like myself, reports to Dr. Waters, we work very closely with her on the National Register. It may be of interest to all of you that when the National Register started, property number 1 was actually historic Halifax because of the history of the Halifax Resolve. And so you all are technically in the district, you're in the district. So we have the state acquiring a structure does not prevent it from being on the National Register. Like almost all of our structures are on the National Register. It sounds like what I'm hearing you saying is that there needs to be a true conversation around, regardless of what happens to the structure and ownership, not having it torn down.
No,
Okay, okay,
not ownership either,
okay,
but I'm just one person,
okay,
one vote on the board,
okay,
but that's my personal thoughts and opinions.
okay. So I understand.
And I'll just add to Michelle's comments there that we would be happy to have the state preservation office to get in contact with anyone here with you if you're interested in initiating that conversation to see where how we can work, to maybe, begin the study to see if it can be put on the National Registry. But just you can contact our office. I serve as the State Historic Preservation Officer. My deputy, as Michelle just pointed out, is Ramona Bartos, and we'll be glad to have that conversation with you. So we'll make sure you have our contact information so we can talk.
Okay, thank you.
And there are ways that we have partnered with organizations, municipalities around, if we have the funds and the staff to do evaluations of structures, to think about what can be restored, to think about what happens. Is there a footprint? Is there anything left? All of that to me is a conversation that has, to my knowledge, never happened. Like, is there even an evaluation of the structure that has been done? Are there funds available to evaluate the structure to see what repairs would need to be made or what of it can be saved? What is the condition like in terms of the interior? I've never seen a report of the conditions of the building, and that's also been a concern to me, is that kind of care is something that I've been advocating for.
Okay. I would like to see that also.
And so those are the kind of resources that we could bring to bear. That's usually what we have to do that, as a matter of course, with the properties that are under our stewardship, or even in a partner stewardship.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good evening, Michelle Kimberly Robinson. I'm online. How are you? It's been a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
I would love for us to be able to have further discussion with you and Dr. Waters, but not for acquisition, but for assisting us in moving forward in some ideas and some plans that I think our board would prefer, other than losing that building under the Weldon City Schools auspices. We would look forward to that and your grant money. But I think that's something that we could talk about further in the future, as such as the value and looking at the building, because we've never received those reports.
We also have never received the reports, Ms. Kimberly, because to my knowledge, those reports don't exist.
Right.
No one, to my knowledge, has ever evaluated the building properly. Would there be a willingness to do a site visit where we could walk together on the grounds?
Sure.
Because I think that would be a good
Start.
start, to walk the grounds together.
I agree.
I would love that. And I will not hold you further from your business, but I think I would love to just end there that we do want to work with you. We do want to have conversations. And I would like to, in an appropriate way, schedule a time to do a walkthrough with anyone who would like it.
Okay, if you could give us a date when you would be available to get Mr. Waters, then we certainly will entertain you.
Thank you so much,
Just a
Chair.
couple of days.
Thank you so much, Chair. Should we communicate with you through Mr. Eatman, through Deans to work through some date options?
Either one, it can be Mr. Days or it can be Mr. Waters, whoever's going to be coming down.
Okay, excellent. Well, we look forward to that next conversation.
Oh, Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
Before you,
Yeah.
I heard you talk a whole lot, and I heard Dr. Woods talk a whole lot about, and I'm going to go a different route,
Okay.
because I haven't heard you all say some history about Reverend Andrew J. Jackson.
Yes.
We in this area, we're very familiar with that, and I happen to be the moderator
Yeah.
of the association that ordained him
Amazing.
as a missionary Baptist minister.
Yeah.
And as Ms. Hale said, and as Ms. K. Robinson said, that property is not just valuable in monetary value
Yes.
or the significance of history, but it's also important that name, him being a slave, the church that licensed him, the association that ordained him, that
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of rich history that many of us have at our fingertips, and it is very near and dear to our hearts. And as a board member, I'll go on record now, I'm not interested in Weldon City Schools losing or selling that land because of the name, not just in educating and history and all, but also, in my personal opinion, the spiritual significance that the land has to Weldon City Schools and to many people that are connected with First Baptist Church in Halifax, where he was a member
Yeah.
and where he was licensed as a Baptist minister. So I know that you have a lot of history, and you all have talked about a lot of history tonight. But there are many of us that have a lot of that history from years and years and years within this area. So I just wanted to say that as well, that property is very important to us.
I do think his spiritual leadership, the story of people coming up out of slavery and being able to be a leader and a guiding light in the community, that's a story I have learned and heard from my staff who have made their public history careers at Halifax State Historic Site. In fact, that's one of the things that they speak about pretty much every day as they walk people past that property, and someone will say, "Is this for President Andrew Jackson?" And they will say, "No, this is not. This is an African-American man, civic leader." And so I honor the power of his memory with you. And part of what we want to do is to make not only ourselves available, but talk about how can we join together in a shared approach around helping to amplify his story. Our staff, that is a part of our true inclusion commitment. They're supposed to be telling the whole story. They're supposed to be calling out his name as well. And I want to learn more. But I would love it if, we could walk there together and I'd like to hear more from you all about the significance of this man, of this school to you. I'd like to hear more about, I don't know anything about the alumni from this school. Okay, and so part of what I'm deeply committed to is a posture of curiosity, of humble curiosity, of saying, teach me, tell me what you all need for me to know so that we can align with being a good neighbor, being a good partner, and determining and discerning, because it is sacred, the land, his story, but this work is sacred. How can we discern how to move forward together in whatever way makes sense for everyone? So I will be happy to learn more.
Look forward to hearing.
Okay, and so we'll have some walking time together. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I want to thank y'all so much for coming and give us that presentation. Look forward to the rest of it. Thank you. Okay, now we'll do report, superintendent's report.
Good evening again, board members, staff, and community members. I would like to say that the 2023 Summer Learning Program was a success for our students and our staff, and we're now looking forward to the 2023-2024 school year. We will start, like Ms. Lee Easter said earlier, returning soon to prepare, and we will have a kickoff with convocation starting on August 7th. And the implementation of our district-wide initiatives. And I would like to just remind everyone of what those initiatives are. Those are to increase student achievement, attract and retain highly qualified staff, operate effectively and efficiently, increase school community relations, maintain safe and orderly schools and environments, and supporting the whole child. So again, we are looking forward to implementing these initiatives for the upcoming school year and having a successful school year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Coffin. At this time, I would like to, let's say happy birthday, happy anniversary to everyone in the month of July. I'd like to say thank you to Attorney Murchison for filling in for Attorney Welber. We thank you so much. I guess, I don't know if I should do this now or later, but I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Campbell. Depends on her report that she gives this evening. But Ms. Campbell, I want to thank you so much for stepping in and bridging the gap between some discomforts that we had and working to bring us up to par. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I know you did it because of your commitment to Weldon City School. Thank you again. I want to say thanks to all that worked with the summer program, Dr. Carpenter, who led it, and to all who have continued to work towards making Weldon City School a better district, not only through words, but through action. Through action. Thank you so much. That concludes my comment. At this time, we have a finance report. Ms. Campbell.
Good evening, board chair, Mr. Williams, our vice chair, interim superintendent, and board members. At this time, I would like to present to you the monthly financial statements for the month of June. If it's okay, Mr. Williams, I want to see if there was any questions in reference to the revised financial statements that you received. And the purpose of those financial statements, after receiving the audit information as far as the fund balance as of July 1, 2022, we had to go back and revise all the financial statements for the whole school year before I could do the June financial statements.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Robert.
Ms. Campbell, how are you this evening?
Well,
I'm sure I'll have to reach out to you because we received these at the time that we did. I did not have an opportunity to go through each one of them. But if I have some questions, then I will reach out to you about that.
Okay.
If that is okay. Thank you.
That's fine.
And the only thing that changed within the fund and within the financials, and I took each one month by month to make sure that all totals were correct, was the fund balance and then your unobligated fund balance. That's one of the major changes with revised financial statements. So the June monthly financial statement, starting with current expense. Beginning revenue was $2,112,206.83. Had a total deposit amount of $64,551.19. Bringing year-to-date total as of June 30 to $2,176,758.02. Beginning expenditures was $3,057,806.21. Total expenditures for the month of June was $140,408.38. Bringing year-to-date total as of June 30 to $3,198,214.59. Giving a net result for the year as of June 30 of a negative $1,021,456.57. Bring the unobligated fund balance as of June 30 to a negative $59,209.66. And we did increase the fund balance obligation that brought that to $918 and $918
$918,000.
yeah, $918,168.09. I apologize. Sinus is truly kicking in. And where you see the parentheses, there, those are where we were able to put money back into Fund 2 to help reduce what we needed to use in fund balance.
You said a net with negative, right?
Right. Where it's not a negative, and when you see it in, up on the expenditures, it means there's a credit within that category.
I'm talking about the net results.
Yes, the net result is a negative,
Negative.
yes. Local Fund 8.
Ms.
beginning
Campbell.
revenue-
So you're saying we're in the negative 1 million? Or
For the
should I
year.
be? I'm sorry?
Yes, ma'am, as of June 30th, yes. For the overall with expenditures and revenues. And so it brought the unobligated down a negative 59,000. So the net result for the year, we spent more money than we actually received in revenue. And that may change because we still have revenues that is pending from the county, like sales tax, supplemental taxes, because we got to check in this week for supplemental taxes for the month of June. So once that is booked, when we complete the 22-23 audit, that figure may decrease some.
Not $1 million.
No, it won't be $1 million, no, but it will
Maybe a
decrease
couple
some.
100,000.
Yes, yes. Any more questions, Ms. Burt Robinson?
I got a question.
Okay.
How much was the supplemental tax you talking about that came in, I guess, within the last couple of weeks?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'd be glad to email you that amount.
Just
It
give me an
wasn't a-
approximate. I don't need an exact. I mean, was it in the, I mean, like
It was, I don't
5
believe it
digits,
was,
6 digits?
I don't believe it was 100,000.
Okay,
It wasn't 100,000.
okay. I still want to know that.
Okay, I'll send that out Monday morning. Fund 8, beginning revenues is $2,112,206.83. Total deposit for the month was $64,000. No, I'm sorry, I'm reading current expenses. Beginning revenues is $652,040.03. Total deposit for the month was $507,306.48. bringing year-to-date total to $1,159,346.51. Beginning expenditures is $1,221,113.07. Total expenditures for the month was $92,195.66. Giving us an year-to-date total of $1,313,308.73. Giving a net result for the year as of June 30th of negative $153,962.22. Bringing the non-obligated fund balance to $527,118.91. Capital outlay, beginning revenues is $338,173.17. Total deposit for the month was $11,008.22. Bringing year-to-date total to $349,181.39. Beginning expenditures $252,929.42. Total expenditures for the month was $78,334.77. Bringing year-to-date total as of June 30 to $331,264.19. Giving us a net result for the year as of June 30 of $17,917.20. Bringing the unobligated fund balance as of June 30 to $798,270.20. Child nutrition,
Question,
yes.
please. And I'm asking this, Scammell, because you said you had to go back from the start of the school year and amend basically all of the monthly financials.
Yes.
So with that being said, this unobligated fund balance that you're reporting as of June 30th, the extra money that we obligated in last year's budget that we had to put for the renovation of the gym. Did we spend everything that we needed to spend last school year? So that job is now, free and clear. 'Cause I know what we had basically obligated, it was some overage that
Can
we
you
were.
bring me up to date what that was? Because I'm not sure what that was.
Well, I'm saying there was some change orders that were done, and I
As
know.
far as, okay, yes, it was, as far as athletics.
No, for the gym itself, there was some change orders because some contracts were not signed, that needed to be signed before the school year and all ended. So with those change orders and everything, I'm saying we're free and clear now. Everything should be good.
Because I'm not sure, Mr. Brother Tyson, exactly what that's in reference, because I haven't been brought up.
There were several change orders.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So at the beginning of the year, there was an initial contract with PDC, Progressive Design Collaborative, for the design and engineering work with HVAC projects at both Wegger and the high school, prior to my arrival. And I think at some point there was a lot of, I don't know what happened, but there was a delay, it's my understanding, in the contract being executed for Progressive Design Collaborative and all of their contractors, Baker Mechanical and B&M Roofing. As a result, it led to an increase in the contract amount, right? Being through a change order, because once you had that contract in place, there was additional monies that was required to even get the project off the ground. Somewhere around between 8 and 10% of that initial contract amount. However, all of that contract became written as part of the ESSER funding, which it came out of, which is ESSER 171. And so all of that then became encumbered as part of that project. So it probably wouldn't have been part of any local that's unobligated fund balance. I don't know.
It's referencing capital.
Capital outlay. So none of that was part of capital outlay. All of that became an additional cost that was paid out of ESSER.
Okay, I asked that because if you had to go back, Ms. Campbell, and amend or adjust, I'm just making sure that any adjustment that was done, that it actually did come out of ESSA and not capital outlay, because you had to go back
When
and,
I went back and redid all the reports, I ran each report on a monthly basis. And so, like with July, you would see everything in reference to July as far as what was presented. So if those things was deleted, it went back into capital outlay.
that's what I
Yes.
needed to know. I know we had funded the project from ESSA. I knew that, but I also knew when we did 21-22 school year,
Mhm.
that we had obligated so much in
Okay, gotcha.
capital outlay
Okay,
towards project, just to make sure
I
that,
got
we were covered.
you. Okay.
And with you saying that you had to go back and amend them, I wanted to make sure that in your looking or whatever it was, that you had
When
to
I
amend.
meant that, I ran each month
Yeah.
individually, the revenues and their expenditures. I ran them individually and I did each month individually. And so if it was anything that was encumbered, if they change order was done for that, that meant that encumbered was deleted somewhere within that school year.
Right.
Because I made sure that the revenues and everything was in balance as far as the monthly expenditures and year-to-date expenditures before I moved on.
So my last question, I guess, until you finish. So if you had to go back and look at all of these, because just skimming through real quick, I see
A whole
several
lot.
spots that were in the red. So basically, what I'm hearing you say tonight is none of the monthly financials that we received, many of them were not correct.
Well, you remember, probably in maybe February or March, you got some revised financials
Right,
because they was out of balance.
right.
Um,
But you said you had to revise them again.
only thing I did this time was revise to correct the, fund balance.
Okay,
Right, that's all I did this time was revise to correct the fund balance, to give you the correct fund balance and the correct unobligated fund balance this time. But I always, for my purposes, I want to make sure that everything was in balance for each month. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that everything, was done each month.
you saying what I need to hear.
Child nutrition, beginning revenue was $557,809.33. Total deposit for the month was $499.15. Year-to-date, bringing year-to-date totals to $558,308.48. Beginning expenditures is $718,930.15. Total expenditures for the month was $45,972.99. Bringing year-to-date total to $764,903.14. Given a net result for the year as of June 3rd of a negative $206,594.66. Bringing the unobligated fund balance to $119,576.34. That concludes the financial reports for the month of June. And I would like to say thank you for giving me an opportunity. My goal was not to come back, but I do not mind serving and helping welding. I am working 29 and a half hours on paper, but I assure you, you're probably getting 40+ hours. Because I want to make sure whatever I do is decent and in order. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Ms. Campbell before she leaves the dais. Ms. Campbell, that negative $1 million, I haven't missed any meetings, whether I was virtual or in person. I know we have not spent that kind of money. And since you've been through all of the last 12 months, I need a report on where that money is and how it was spent. I know there were some raises given that we were not aware of. And there's a lot of other expenditures that we didn't approve that has taken place. I need an account of those, if you don't mind. And my last question and request is, did we receive a PRC report this month?
No, ma'am, I forgot that report. I did not, but I will get that report done and get it sent out first thing Monday morning. I do apologize for that. And the expenditures was very high in current expense, Ms. K. Robinson. I will tell you that. And I'm
Yes.
doing everything I can to see how I can reduce those expenditures in the month
in current expense for this school year. I have been working closely with Dr. Robinson to try to move some things around to cut those expenditures, because it is a must that we cut some expenditures in current expense.
I'd
So
also, Mr. Campbell, I'd also like to request that you do a report with the number of teachers we have versus the number of monies we receive from the state of North Carolina for teachers, so that we can make sure that that amount is equaling out and that we have enough to cover from the state to pay our teachers.
as of right now, I just got back from Durham from the summer conference. Went into the budget update from DPI. There is no budget update. They're hoping that we'll get a budget by mid-August. One of the things that Alexa Shaw said, that if their budget is not ready by mid-August, what they plan to do is at least send us some initial budgets. So that, because I think they have carryover funds that needs to be posted, and they can't do that until we get the initial budgets. So as soon as we get those, we can move forward with trying to figure out with the budget. But I will get those to you, Ms. K. Robinson, and one of them I may have to call you to get a little bit more detail as far as what you need. If that's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. That should go to everybody.
Okay, but I want to
Okay.
just find out exactly with the detail, what it
Okay.
is that you want. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. No problem.
Mr.
Yeah.
Williams, I have a question for Ms. Campbell as well.
Right now, Ms. Barry Robinson, say,
Ms. K. Robinson just spoke about
Okay.
some funds that we were not made aware of. They're not gonna carry over into this year's budget audit. I have made it perfectly clear, and I've had the conversation with Dr. Carpenter, and she told me I was correct. If I do not receive anything in writing from her that the board has approved for anybody to get anything, I will not put my signature on it. And I have made that clear to payroll as well. If Dr. Carpenter does not give me anything that said the board has approved it, it will not get processed. My name will not go on it. Because I'm not going on shopping.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ms. Barry Robinson.
Ms. Campbell, I know that we had started meeting, and you were a part of that meeting with the board where we were looking at, as Ms. K. Robinson said, positions for our teachers, but we did not finish that. We didn't go back and continue with that meeting. So also, in addition to the teachers, we need to look at other positions as well that we may be over, and so that we can make sure that we are not in over $1 million debt in our next budget. Of course, we want to keep everybody employed. However, we need to definitely look at our dollars.
Okay, I've met with one principal already in reference to their teacher vacancy, and as I shared with Dr. Carpenter, that meeting went very well. We were all on the same page. And I'm working with Dr. Carpenter closely to do the projecting staffing sheets for each location. And I'm scheduled to meet with the other two, well, I met two principals, I'm sorry. I'm scheduled to meet with the other two principals on Monday to go over their staffing. And then that way I can start figuring out where people need to be paid from and if we have enough funds for all of that. When are we gonna come back to the table?
And this is why our finance committee is very important in having.
I'm working on it right now. There's some other things I'm trying to clean up. And that's why I have not come back to Dr. Carpenter to start discussing budget. I want to see positions first to see if there's any wiggle room to move from one fund to another fund this school year. And once I get that and clean some other things that has popped up since I've been back, I'll get with Dr. Carpenter to try to set up another meeting. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the 21-22 audit report.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Carpenter. Hope you're all doing well. Each of you should have received a copy of the June 30th, 2022 audited financial statements that we've issued. The financial statements cover two main areas that we audit and are required to issue reports on. The first being the financial section, which covers the first 54 pages of the report, followed by the compliance section, which begins on page 55. Now, there are a couple of pages in the financial information in the audit report that I plan to go over. You don't need to turn there, but I did want to mention that pages 1 and 2 of the report is the audit opinion letter that we issued on the financial section of the audit. And we are happy to report that it is a clean, unmodified opinion, which is exactly what the board wants to receive. The first page I would ask that you turn to is page 13, and we'll look at exhibit 3. Now, exhibits 3 and 4 are essentially the balance sheet and income statements for the governmental funds. And these schedules show the fund activities and fund balances on a fund by fund basis. In the first column, on the next to last number, you'll see the ending fund balance at June 30th, 2022 for the general fund is $1,880,415, and which is an increase of about $417,000 from the amount reported at June 30th, 2021. With one thing we have been highlighting this year is, with all the uncertainty in the economy right now, minimum wage increases, rising healthcare and retirement costs, we do feel it is important for the district to have extra funds in reserve for when the federal COVID funds expire in a couple of years. In addition, the district needs to maintain adequate fund balance and cash reserves for cash flow purposes, for potential emergency needs that may arise. Due to delays in federal funding, I think the finance department ends up heavily relying on local fund balance to meet cash flow needs. So it is important for the district to ensure that it does have adequate fund balance reserves to meet those needs and allow the district to pay its bills in a timely manner. And just want to touch base real quick before we move on, that the other special revenue fund have an ending fund balance of $1,146,601. Capital outlay have an ending fund balance of $1,049,049, and individual schools have an ending fund balance of $74,635. So overall, these funds are, we're in good financial condition as of June 30th, 2022. Does anybody have any questions about this page before we move on? And the next page I'd ask you to turn to is page 54, and we'll look at the school food service fund. And this schedule shows the revenues, expenses, and change in net position or fund balance for the individual schools fund, or I'm sorry, for the school food service fund. And about 3/4 down the way of the page, you'll see the profit for the year was $58,925. And the previous year, the district reported a profit of $9,000. So that is a year-over-year improvement of approximately $50,000. And that improvement in profitability was primarily due to an increase in food sales and USDA reimbursements as a result of increased meals served as the district continued to return to more normal operations in 2022. Cash balances in the program were $290,000 at year end, which was an increase of approximately $60,000. Overall, the program appears to be in good financial condition as of June 30th, 2022. Are there any questions on that page? And the next point out is the compliance section, which starts on page 55. Now, page 55 is the first of 3 letters we issued relating to our compliance testing over the board's internal controls and expenditure of state and federal grant awards. We are required each year to perform compliance audits on state and local grants received by the board. We're required to test a significant amount of payroll and general disbursement transactions, as well as testing all other various grant-specific requirements. Excuse me. All 3 of these letters are clean, unmodified opinions, which means there were no internal control weaknesses, material findings, or question calls reflected in any of these letters. Now, while there were no material findings that we noted, we did want to point to on page 64, we did report one finding in the state public school fund pertaining to the Gefeller-Waller Concussion Awareness Act requirements. I didn't plan to go over that finding in detail unless there's any specific questions about that.
Yes, I have some
But-
questions. Mr. Williams.
Go ahead, Ms. Mary Robinson.
Okay. I'm looking here at it says that there were a couple of things stood out to me. One said that there was 5 out of 28 that was reported or that was seen.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you given all of that information, or did you have access to it, or were you just given certain items?
I
'Cause I'm-
think it references on here that we obtained the fall sports booklet that I believe came from the athletic director. I think Mr. Edwards at the time had went and got that. And we looked through and we obtained the football roster as well, from the school. And that's where we looked at, all the students that had, that were on that roster.
Okay. Mr. Williams, is either Mr. Futrell or is the AD in the room that can speak
Both are
to
here.
this? Huh?
Both are here.
Okay, so I guess it would be more suitable for Mr. Lynch probably to answer those questions versus,
Mr. Lynn. He's coming up.
okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Lynch.
Evening, Mr. Gonzalez.
So, Mr. Lynch, my question is, the auditor said they only saw 5 out of 28 of where the students or the parents had some information that they were supposed to, I guess, view. I know it's usually a video or something. Was there a signature or something? Did we have all of those things?
Had all the signatures, on August 27th. I submitted to the finance director, the director before the last one, all of those required documents. There were 28 the fellow Waller forms in there. At that time, he said he would be using it for audit purposes. I gave him the material, I gave him the booklet. Maybe about a week or two later, he gave it back to me, thanked me for all the material. And I submitted it back to the high school. Maybe 7 months later, the new finance director asked me for the same material. And I told him he needs to recheck because I gave all the material to the director before him. And I told him whatever he needed was locked in the front office, in the bookkeeper's office. I showed him how to get the material, what the material was. I told him, but he could not take the material away from the school. But he took it away from the school. He had it in his possession for maybe several days or a few weeks or something. And I know maybe about 3-4 weeks later, he met with me and the principal telling us a lot of material was missing from the booklet. I don't know what happened there, but when I gave it to him, when I gave it to the first director about a year ago, all the material was there. So I don't know what happened in between.
Okay.
And I also had, I met with the principal to make sure that this do not happen again. I met with the principal and I showed him how I followed the same procedures for last year. Used the same agenda, same protocol. And the booklet that I have now that only I had access to, I have 100% of the material in that booklet. But I just don't know what happened with the first one. I don't know if material got displaced when people went through, I don't know. But on August the 29th, all the material was in there. Because I went through it because I had to verify it before I could get the principal to sign.
Okay. Okay, and I did see here that there isn't a fine or something that's associated with it, but nope, the materials haven't shown back up. No one has said anything about the materials are resurfaced?
Not to me.
Okay. Do we have this, this is for the auditor, is the same protocol followed for the middle school? Or is it-
We just selected for testing the high school this year. So that is something, we pick, when we're doing auditing, we don't necessarily look at 100% of what we find. We pick a sample. And so in this case, it was the high school. And one thing I will highlight is part of the 2023 audit, we will follow up with this requirement. And this is actually, this is a requirement we have to test every year. So it is something we will be looking at the high schools again. At the very least, to make sure we follow up on that finding.
So what you're saying is you never look at the middle school?
Not that we no, ma'am, not that we never do. Again, we picked a sample. So the fact of that we noted issues, we may end up picking the middle school and as well looking at the high school as well. But the protocols and procedures for that requirement should be the exact same.
Right. And that's what I want to make sure that we're all in compliance, whether it's middle or high.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Mr. Williams. I have a quick question. This is gonna have to be for Ms. Campbell.
Yes, sir.
I know you came back, the first part of this year, contract services. And we were working with a different auditing firm, I guess, to say, of course. Some of this paperwork, where did Mr. Lynch go? Some of this paperwork that Mr. Lynch is talking about, of course, would have been given not to the auditing firm now, but the previous auditing firm. From what you were trying to assist and help with that audit.
I did not have any input.
I know you didn't have any input. What I'm asking is paperwork that had to be submitted to the auditing firm now. I'm quite sure all that paperwork was everywhere. As far as
Actually, it was behind the accounts payable door, because when they came in to do the audit again, because I didn't know where stuff was, like when I used to do it, it was like pulling tooth and nail trying to find some of their stuff. And just happened one day, I said, okay, I told the accounts payable person, I know I can't call names, I'm gonna sit here, go through this stack, because I just think some stuff is in this stack. And that's where, because there was a deposit you was looking for, you needed a backup documentation. And the finance officer at that time couldn't find it. So I said, okay, I don't know what to do. The money was there, saw it in the bank. So I took time and went through the stack. And at that time, I found a lot of what they needed in that stack.
that's the point that I'm after. So.
But there was nothing in reference to what Mr. Lynch had.
Right.
And I know I sent Mr. Lynch the form originally that needed the signature, but as far as the notebook, I never touched the notebook, never saw the notebook. And we looked in that stack for everything, because we even thought at one point that there was a jump drive with documents on, and in every jump drive that was on the desk, we checked the jump drive, there was no documents on that jump drive. Because when I was assistant on the contractor services, I saw where stuff was being saved. Because like I said, I didn't have any input when they were having the first audit done, completed. And I saw where documents was being saved. So my question then was, can we find out, is it anything on these jump drives? Because we need the information. Is there anything on the jump drive? And we checked jump drives, there was nothing on the jump drive. So I don't know what happened to the document.
Well, I'm just saying that because there were a whole lot of working parts. I was just asking from where you started, which was of course at the beginning of the
Yeah, I
year.
came back in
Basically.
October.
Well, I'm saying, well, we had already started the school year. And the firm that we had in place, I believe what Mr. Lynch is saying, I believe what you're saying. I mean, you can't produce what's not there, but I know that there was some more moving parts before the present auditing firm got involved and before you re-engage contract services as far as that is concerned. So I mean, as we say, we just have to do a better job, but all of those working parts are not here to talk tonight, and you all can only talk upon what was presented to you at the time. So, you know, in my opinion, I'm not looking at either one of you all because it was a different auditing firm, it was a different finance officer. I mean, there were a whole lot of different
And
things.
so what we did, once we finished with the auditor firm, we was trying to decipher what to do with it. So I took it upon myself. I said, I'm gonna do a box. Audit information, I put the year, and everything is in that box. So
That you found, that
we
you
found that was in the office, because I told her, we're not gonna file this document. We put it in a box and just put what the information was and when they could be destroyed. So when they doing 22, 23, if it's something they need out of that box, here's
right,
the box.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't mind working with Mr. Lynch to make sure that this process going forward will work, because we've worked together before. So I don't mind while my time here, we make sure we do what we need to do.
And I've met with the principal to make sure that this will never happen again, that no one would blame it on this one or that one. I've already got the one that's ready prepared for the next audit. 100% of the maturity is already there, like I thought the last one was already.
So
there.
what we can do is, maybe one day next week, we try to reach out to Mr. Hawkins. And the principals, and we all sit down together to make sure everything is in the know.
I'm good with that, however y'all work it out, because I know this has never happened since I've been a board member. I've
No.
never,
We've
you know,
never had that.
Right.
To happen.
right.
This is the first I've ever heard of them. Needing.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions about the comment? And like I think, what was said, I just want to point out, there is no question cost associated with that. So again, it's not going to cost the student cost district any money, any funding or anything like that. So. All right, and then one thing, we do want to point out, we also issued, a 2-page letter to management regarding some matters in which there are opportunities for the board to strengthen internal controls and operating efficiency that I plan to go over. And as I go over these items, if feel free to stop me at any point if there are any questions. But the first item, and this kind of touches on what Ms. Campbell was talking about a few minutes ago during her presentation, the fund balance in the general fund. In performing subsequent event procedures, we requested and obtained for management the preliminary trial balances for all funds for the year ended June 30th, 2023. No testing was performed by our firm on the trial balances to determine if balances are correct. However, per review of the unaudited trial balances, we did note that the general fund is showing that approximately $1 million of fund balance have been expended, which represents over half the fund balance that was in the general fund as of June 30th, 2022. And we did also note on those, the general fund expenditures for the year ended June 30th, 2023 are $1.4 million higher than the 2022 year, which is an increase of over 75%. We recommend that the board conduct a thorough study of its fiscal year 23-24 budget to ensure that the district is not relying on fund balance for recurring expenditures. Also, and this is kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier, but the district is currently benefiting from the use of federal grant funding. So we recommend that the board conduct a thorough study of its current and longer term budgets to ensure that the district has properly anticipated and accounted for recurring expenditures that are being paid from this federal COVID funding. Because once the COVID funding expires, any recurring expenditures will have to be paid from other funding sources. Next, we'll move on to state position and dollar allotments. And we noted that unused classroom teacher position allotments in PRC 001 with an estimated value of $5,000. We also noted unused dollar allotments totaling $14,872 and PRC 056, which is transportation.
Excuse me, yes, sir.
14,872.
Mine says 17.
I apologize. On my notes, I hit it wrong. Yes, you're right. Correct. It's 17,000.
Well, I was hoping you were right.
I wish. I do apologize about that. You are 100% correct.
So 17 is the correct.
70, yes, sir, that number is correct. And the unused allotments do revert back to the state. We recommend the management closely monitor its state position and dollar allotments throughout the year to ensure that the district is fully maximizing the funding that is available from the state. The next one at the bottom of the page relates to pre-kindergarten grant funds. We noted that the district received approximately $90,000 of pre-kindergarten grant funds that it did not expend during the year. And the board should ensure that these grant funds are budgeted for and expended in the year received. And if we go to the next page, regarding NCD, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction Contracted Services, the district performs contract services for NCDPI and receives a fee for providing NCDPI with this service. The district pays NCDPI workers and NCDPI reimburses the district for the amount paid to the workers. The district records a revenue and an expenditure for these transactions. However, we noted during the audit that the district reported all of the revenues, which was approximately $232,000 in the other special revenue fund. However, only approximately $129,000 of the related expenditures were reported in the other special revenue fund. So the remaining expenditures were reported in the general fund. The board should ensure that revenues and related expenditures for this contracted service are all reported in the same fund. And the last thing we noted was related to purchasing procedures. During our audit, we performed testing of various general expenditure transactions, as I mentioned earlier. And as a result, we noted that various contracted service expenditures for which a purchase order had not been prepared. Although we noted no violations of the board budget, we feel that completion of the purchase orders for contracted services would provide a higher level of assurance that budgets are being properly monitored and adhered to. And we recommend that the board emphasize to all staff with purchasing responsibility the importance of using purchase orders and following proper internal control policies and procedures relating to purchasing contracts. Were there any specific questions on any of these items in the management letter? And the last letter, we also issued a separate 3-page letter that details specific audit items that we're required to communicate to the board about. That letter just basically has boilerplate language. It discusses that there were no difficulties or disagreements encountered in dealing with management during the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements noted, and there were no other reportable issues noted during the audit. The letter does make reference to the finding that I mentioned earlier, as well as to the items in the management letter that we just went over, but there was nothing else in that letter. So again, it's just something we're required to issue. But overall, under the circumstances, we felt that the audit went smoothly. And we really do appreciate Ms. Campbell and the finance staff for all of their hard work and helping us complete the audit. Are there any other questions for me? Sir.
First, I want to make a comment because as a board member, I know I'm accountable to the constituents in which have elected me as well as everybody else to this board. In one calendar year, July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, you said $1.4 million was spent over what we did the previous year. I'm saying that, and I'm saying that loud and clear so the community and people can know. And you said some of the things were not reported as they were supposed to have been reported in PRCs and funds that came from the state. I'm glad that that has come out and the community can hear that when we're talking about the finances, and people can assume whatever they want to assume, but that's what you all found when you looked at it.
Yes, sir.
And the second thing I want to ask now is, have you all submitted this audit now to the state? Does DPI?
We have. Yes, sir. We did. I don't remember the exact date, but I think that we dated it July 13th. So I believe we submitted it that evening.
Okay,
it was submitted.
All right. have, I guess, Mr. Williams, with everything that was necessary to go along with this. Have you heard back from DP?
I haven't.
Okay. I guess, have they responded to?
No, well, so when we submit the audit, it goes to the local government commission, and then my understanding, and, I don't, forgive me if it's, it's not 100% accurate, but I believe they then send, once they review it, they have accountants that review the audit report, and then they approve it, and then it gets sent to the oversight agencies, which in this case is NCDPI. So usually it doesn't take, especially this time of year, it hopefully won't take too long to review those. But we have not heard back, to my knowledge, unless, came in this evening or earlier, or this afternoon, and I'm unaware of that they've been approved yet. So, and I don't know necessarily what the turnaround time is for the LGC getting those to the state, but that's something, we can, that we go inquire about, and certainly encourage you to do so.
I guess, Mr. Williams, I don't know if it's you or Dr. Carpenter or somebody in finance, but I think we need to know as soon as possible that they, have received everything and that they are moving, or, giving some approximate date, because we do have to make sure that we have everything in before sometime in September, if my memory serves me correctly. And we, according to what you just said, everything has been submitted, but it would be nice to know how soon they're going to get back with us, just to make sure we got the green light as far as 2021, 22 school year is concerned.
Right.
Sir, I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank you and your company for coming in and doing a fabulous job with getting the report done. As you know, we selected a company that it didn't work out, and you were able to come in and just a matter of a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and get it done. So our hats are off to you. Thanks for stepping in and taking the ball and doing the job. But thank you so much, because you really helped us out in a time when we really need it. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate it as well. Like I said, we appreciate all the hard work that definitely could have been done without finance staff helping to get all that stuff together, because it is, as Ms. Campbell attested, there is a lot of documentation that we have to get to produce this report. So, I do appreciate that. We really do appreciate you allowing our firm to continue to work with y'all and perform the audit. And, we do look forward to working with y'all again next year. Well, I guess this year.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have revised financial statement.
We've already done.
Yeah, okay, all right. Federal programs.
Good evening, board chair, vice chair,
Good evening.
all board members. I am standing before you to present the federal programs information. Before I start, are there any questions? So where I want to start, this is not in your PowerPoint, this is actually additional information, because as you know, federal programs is always ever changing, especially this time of year. It ended, the fiscal year ended June 30th, so we're starting the new year, so it's a lot of amendments that are happening right now. And working in CCIP, especially with consolidated funds. So I'm trying to make sure that all those things are locked tight or tied up in a nice pretty bow, but it's gonna take some time. But what I want to say is with the CCOC, which is the summer learning, the foundation for the summer learning that we did this summer, it dropped later than our summer program started. So we had to provide payment from PRC 171 and 181 to ensure that if we were getting paid, get the money. The idea was that we would pay that money back once we get CCOC. Of course, if it's before June 30th, and I know it's not up here, because I'm talking for something else, is before June 30th, then, we will not be able to pay that money back into PRC 171, 181. So, so what we're looking at is all these fundings and the salaries that were paid after that point, which is, July 1 through July 6, with the field trips, and salaries, and bus salaries, things of that nature, and I can't. So right now, we're looking at, CCLC was already submitted an LBAS for approval. And they've already approved it, but we need to submit it again in 2023-2024 school year for them to approve it again for us to actually use those funds. The limit is we may, hopefully we won't, but we may have to, some of those funds may have to go back because of the timing of it dropping. It dropped later again than most of the schools. It's not moving fast. That's going in the dance. We'll just start right here. Let's talk since I can't, I'm talking here, gonna talk from the PowerPoint. ESER 2, as we know, is gonna end on September 30th, 2023. We've already spent down a lot of 171, which is our big COVID-19 money. Right now, as of June 30th, we're at 90,000, but that was the end of the 2022-2023 fiscal year. So we know that we're gonna spend down more of that money once once those funding start coming in for, or those requisitions start coming in for the 2023-2024 school year. So where we are right now, we still have 90,000, and but we still have outstanding requisitions for that in 171. So I'm not worried that we won't spend 171 now.
Is the metal detectors, has
So
it already come out, or?
So that's gonna have to come out of 181, and what's happened at NCDPI, they're shifting people in NCDPI, so my person, Ally, is now working in Hertford County, have a new person, and so whatever she submitted to the government, to Department of Education, we have not received that information back yet. So still waiting on that, we're still waiting for her to even approve PRC 181. Again, she's a new person, so I'm trying to give her grace, as you guys can give me grace to look at this job. So, but I know that that's a need, and we're trying to get that done before school open. So we're in communication. She was actually in Williamston the other day. I thought she was gonna stop by William, but she didn't. So that's just one of the list of things that she needs to follow up on. So where we are right now, we're in ESER 3, and we know that ends in 2024. We're in pretty good shape as far as spending down, because we already have a plan to use a lot of that money, and the bulk of that money for what it was intended, which was instructional support and learning loss. And so what we're gonna do is use that, and curriculum is gonna speak to that later, use a chunk of that money to support after school tutorials, since we will not be able to do that next summer, probably because of this transition that are gonna be happening in the schools. So we're gonna start after school mediation and implementing a plan with fidelity that would actually support teaching and learning after the hours of school. So right now we did spend down quite a bit. We're at 2,535,871.08 as of June 30th. But again, we still have state monies that are going to be coming out of that. And also, we're gonna have money coming back in from CCLC, because CCLC has to pay us back any money that we spend out of another fund. That's a part of the agreement. Any questions? We still trying to spend down the other PRCs. We're really close to, we already have a plan for those. I think that can happen.
Mr.
Yes.
Williams,
It's fine,
have a question for Dr. Robertson.
fine.
Dr. Robinson, I know that we had talked about also extending into, and I know this is something that you and Mr. Futrell were working on. We had talked about continuing our COVID services for our staff and our students. Is that something we're able to continue? I know that there was some talk about it coming out of PRC, one of the PRCs, but we definitely want the after school remediation to start and to start early. So definitely don't want to cut that out. But are there other funds that we can use to extend that program into this school year? Again, I know that was something you and Mr. Futrell had kind of was looking at.
I'm not sure if we can sustain it with 181. That's a budget that I would have to analyze to see if that, depending on how much it costs. But there are also other grants that could be used to support that outside of the ESSER funds. So I guess let's continue the conversations, because I don't know the amount, how much it would cost. And I know that our party right now, is teaching them.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I know that there are other grants out there. I know that there, I don't know if the safety grant can, satisfy that, but there are other grants right now that are dropping that could possibly satisfy that need, as opposed to using ESSER funding for it.
Okay.
But it's
Well,
not,
I'll wait until Mr. Futrell comes for his part, and maybe he'll have some information on that.
Chairman Williams, I have a question.
Fine.
PRC 181, Dr. Robertson, where it says retention bonuses for teachers and staff. And I see $525,000 for 2024.
yeah.
So we're gonna use 525 for 2023 this year. And 525 for what do we have an account how that is gonna be spent?
So what I have to do with a budget amendment is project based on what we did prior. And so I have to project the same amount based on what we used before. And if it happens to be more, then I do a budget amendment. That should happen before it is even expended. That's the way it should have been happening, and it will be happening. So moving forward, we have a person that's in finance that knows that we can't spend this money prior to the plan. So this is what you see before you is actually a part of the plan that I have to submit in CCIP for the budget deed. So I have to put in 525 because that was what we spent last year. But as we start projecting and looking at the amounts or the numbers of teachers and staff we have, then I can go in CCIP and make the budget amendment, and also go in LBAS and make the budget amendment so that we won't be in the negative.
Okay, and the next one under district-wide HR, $40,000 hiring bonus plus
So-
professional development for HR.
So it was that I put that in the plan because that was a part of the plan for the year before. Again, we can always change it, lessen it, add more to it depending on the need of the district. So it's not a set in stone. With ESSER 3, it's budgeting and it's you moving PRCs. I mean, you're moving things around. You're moving your program codes around. You're moving monies around all the time to satisfy the need. But you do that prior to spending. And I think a lot of what's happening is things were moved around. And they weren't planned for it, and we had to go back and fix it. That's what Ms. Campbell's been working on. We had to go back and fix things that were done prior to planning for it. So what I did was we planned 40,000. We don't have to spend 40,000. We know it's there. But as we go through the school year and see that we don't need 40,000, we can all together move that money
to another line item, to another budget area.
Okay. All right,
So it seems
Thank
like a
you.
lot, but at the time, it's a lot of money we're looking at, so. when I'm-
yes,
The budget plan, I got to put the money someplace that I think that we may be able to use it. And right now, it's always hindsight, we may not be able to, we may not need that much there, so we can move it here for instructional services or the contracted services for the students.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So Title I, so Title I, all of our students have, a decent amount of carryover. And look at our drop, from the state, it looked like we didn't get a lot of money. We got pretty much what we were supposed to get based on ADMs, but our schools have a decent amount of carryover to really use it for instructional services and for contracted services and for supplies, but not for things that we already have. So, as the transition happens and conversations I had with principals about how they would spend their money, they've already planned their carryover, how they want to spend their carryover amount. But they do have quite a bit of money coming in. I'm working on the Title I consolidated funds, where the consolidated budget right now, the plan right now, and it's pretty much finished. I'm gonna have to bring it back to the board to present. So, so we are in decent shape with Title I. We just gotta make sure that because this year may be the year that they monitor. With all the changes that shifts that are happening, they will come in and monitor. So I was given heads up that we may come in and monitor. Okay. And this year restart is restart monitoring for the high school. We've already submitted the self-study that's already done. And the next thing that Mr. Hopkins will have to do is his own self-study for the high school. And so I'm going to support with that. Since I'm starting with it, I'm committed to supporting with that regardless of what I'm doing someplace else. Because it's not hard, but it's helping. I just want to help him and make sure that we are in compliance with restart. So since I started it, I feel it's not a lot. It's just a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of that Google Docs to make sure that we have it in for monitoring. And that's for applying for renewing restart. So if the board is in agreement with us continuing with restart, which if you look at how we hire teachers, that's one of the flexibilities. It might be something that we probably need to stay with right now until we can hire, so we can hire teachers and bring teachers into the district. But that's how we're able to hire teachers. That's the flexibility that's our primary flexibility for restart. And then,
Hold on, Dr. Robinson. So you suggesting that we stay in restart?
I said, if you're thinking about hiring,
Well, I'm asking, because I don't want to read into what you're saying.
I said that I want to. There are some pros and cons to restart. The con is they drop one big sum of money after everyone else has their money. We have to figure out how to allot it to different schools, and then we get it late, and then it's late spinning out. It's just it's a headache with that because of how it's distributed. The pro to it is it allows us the similar flexibilities of charter school. And because we're so small, and we want to hire quality teachers, or hire teachers that want to be quality teachers, it helps us in that event. As far as calendar flexibility, I mean, we are already on a calendar that resonates with the early college. So I'm just depends on what the district decides to do.
I agree with you on that, but we need to have fully licensed teachers. And I'm not in favor, I never have been in favor of any restart. Our teachers need to be certified, they need to have license. We need to have quality teachers in our district. Not saying that teachers aren't quality, but on the restart, you can continue to apply and apply and apply. It seems like you can go 10 years and never get a license. That's where it kind of feels to me. We need to, at some point in time, because I look at test scores, when you don't have people that have licensed and tested areas to go in our classroom and teach our students, that's a direct reflection of the board and the staff that's in over the different departments. Yeah, I heard it's a little small caveat where you have that flexibility, yeah, but in the long run, I haven't seen where it really benefited us. That's just me now.
I think the goal has always been to get teachers in and make sure that they're licensed and become quality teachers. I don't know what happened along the way, but I think that was the whole idea. I worked in a charter school, and I can tell you that a lot of teachers that they have are not certified, and they don't try to go get licensed, they just continue to hire them over and over again. It's just my experience, and as things have changed since 2020. That's
What happened to you.
Dr. Robinson, so it's up for renewal this year, so when?
For the high school.
When?
We in it right now, so it's up, 2024. He has to submit something in December. So it's this year for the high school, next year for the middle school, the next year from high school, elementary school, to middle school.
The middle was the last one that entered into the show.
Okay, and it's gonna have to come to the board first.
Yeah, yes, I don't, it would have to. I mean, no one in my position can make the decision of not going to restart, but as long as we're in it, we still have to fulfill the requirements of.
Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, we're in it this year, so we still have to wait for that money to drop. But moving forward, however you decide, I guess we need to decide it quickly, so I can let, Mr. Taranto and Ms. Barbara know which way we're going.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes, ma'am.
other school systems that I've been a part of, you have 4 years to get your licensure, your license. Why, is that a state rule? Is it an individual school system rule? Whose rule is it? Because that's why we're seeing an influx of teachers from other systems right now, because they're 4 years up. So if it's a rule, why are we a part of the rule?
And that is a good question I cannot answer. And I think it was, I don't know if the culture of William City School before I came. I know when I came, that was, I had teachers that needed to be licensed, they couldn't get licensed, and things happened with that. Because they had passed their time. So I'm not real sure. I know that I've worked in districts too, that after 3 years, they didn't have a choice. They had to go out the door. With, I guess with Restart, they do have a choice. We just offer them a lesser money based on Restart funding. So I'm not real clear why that's continue to happen here. I don't know. I guess the whole idea is to make sure we have teachers in the buildings for our kids, but I don't know if there are any support systems in place to make sure that our teachers are actually getting what they need to become fully licensed too. So I don't know. Question. So like had started with the CTLC grant. We haven't heard anything about the girls working grant, we won't hear anything about that until August, maybe late August, September. But with the CCLC grant, it runs out September 1st, so we're doing everything we can to make sure that we spend those funds. And in your document is telling you how we use it or try to use them to spend those funds. I think I said before that issue with CCLC grant is that it drops. We get out and than everyone else in the state. So it's dropping according to everyone else in the state. But we already in after school when everyone else is going across the state and graduating. So I think that's the issue. Our calendar is off of a lot of schools in the state.
How close are we to, how much do we have left that we need to spend by September?
I won't know until all the fundings, all the checks and all the things have come, because we just ended, June the 30th. And we
Okay.
had payroll to go out, July the 1st. So once
Okay.
that comes, I'm gonna have a better idea. I wanna just shout out Miss Campbell because she's been very helpful with trying to tie up a lot of loose ends. As you know, federal programs have been I tackled a bear. I really did, but it really requires someone that, I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, that's who I am. But it really requires someone who knows finance to be over a person that's in, federal programs. It's absolutely a great job to have when you have when you have the support. And I'm just grateful that, Ms. Campbell came in when she did, because it's been a lot of things that I didn't know should have been happening. I was doing the best I could, trying to get it done, because that's just who I am as a person, but it was a lot of things that could have happened better, I think. That didn't happen. So right now, we just making sure that whoever inherits this job will be in a good position to push and move forward. Girls, welcome again. We still waiting on that. That's gonna be September before we find anything out about that grant. That'll be great if we get it, because we still will have our grant writing team. I want to make sure that continues to happen.
Chair Williams, if I may respond to
Yes, ma'am.
if I may respond to a question that was posed by one of your board members, by Ms. Robinson. I think you had a question about the length of time that people have to obtain a license. When they come in through the residency license, the current residency program, the residency license is good for 1 year and can be renewed 2 times. So you can have a residency license for 3 years in North Carolina. That's under the current system. So the timeline for which teachers have, and lateral entry also had a timeline as well, that's no longer available. So when we talk about the amount of time people have to obtain their license, that's coming from state standards. Just to clarify, I think you had a question about whether that was a local standard or whether that's coming from someplace else.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Mr. Gooding, for the attorney now, Attorney Murchison. In saying that thing, you cannot extend someone 2-year contract that's in a residency license. It can only be 1 year at a time then, hearing you say that, correct?
That is correct.
So if that's the case, and that can only be done for 3 consecutive years, if they don't have a license after the 3rd year, they don't have a license, and technically they shouldn't be working for a school district. And I'm saying that under the standards in which you.
Under taken apart restart.
Right.
Right, if under the guidelines in North Carolina, you are expected to have a license, you have to have some sort of license. Residency is one path of licensure, and you have 3 full years to obtain that path. You can also go a different path, but yes, once you get through those 3 years and you haven't achieved what you need to achieve to get to transition it over to a full licensure, then at that point you would be moving on to something.
Right.
Typically. Unless you qualify for some other sort of license at that time, which doesn't typically.
Any additional questions? I apologize, I'm not an HR expert. So any additional questions?
Let's wait. Dr. Carter. In light of this information that the board knew, and now hearing it from our attorney, would you please go through the list of persons that's in that restart and let us know next board meeting who have already exceeded their 3-year window as far as license is concerned? Because hearing the standards that was just quoted from Attorney Murchison, and that's general statute, right?
That's general statute.
Um,
Well, no, that's guidelines from DPI.
But
Those
DPI
are- Those
guidelines.
are regulations from DPI.
Okay, regulation from DPI, well, still the state. We have some things that we have to look at and well. No ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Any additional questions?
Thank
For me,
Thank you, Dr. Robertson.
thank you.
Good evening again, everyone. I'm going to present the instructional report for the month of July. Okay, so we had a successful summer learning program. And I just want to remind everyone, we ended with students going on field trips to college field trip. They did the college field trips to UNC Chapel Hill, as well as North Carolina Central University. We also had trips to the zoo as well as Fun Day. On a daily basis for the elementary school, we had about 130 students to attend the academic session, and about 65 students daily attended the extended learning portion. At the middle school, about 82 students for academic session, as well as 75 students in the extended learning program. And then at the high school, we had about 84 students that attended the academic session and about 40 students that extended the extended learning program. And I would really like to stop right here and just remind people that there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes to really provide a successful summer learning program. And so I just like to give a shout out to the following people. Mr. Robinson, Deborah Jenkins, Robin Davis, Miss Christy Edmonds, and the cafeteria staff, Akila Robinson, the EC department, Derek Wood, Corey Odom, Empress Faison, my summer school coordinators, of course, the principals, the teachers, the teacher assistants, the finance department, Ms. Campbell, Ms. Boyd, Ms. Powell, Dr. Robinson, the custodians, the bus drivers, the counselors, the custodian and technology team, the athletic department, Mr. Lynch and your coaches, Mr. Cottrell, Ms. Lee Easter. We really like to say thank you because this could not have happened without you all. And I also want to thank the parents for sending their students to us and trusting us with them this summer. We had about 24 third grade students that attended this summer for Read to Achieve. And about 16 of them actually did the retesting to increase their proficiency and grade level proficiency and growth. At the high school, we had 27 credits recovered between both high schools, and so that's very rewarding. And so to continue that for the upcoming school year, I'd just like to remind staff on some things that we have upcoming that will continue curriculum and instruction as we move forward into the next school year. This last Friday, we had teachers in the district to go over to William R. Davie Middle School. This is a DPI district, Northeast District region initiative, but we had our teachers to participate in a workshop where they were provided the opportunity to work with teachers around the Northeast region to create rigorous lesson plans and pacing guides for this upcoming school year. So we are looking forward to seeing our teachers engage students with these lessons this upcoming school year. Next, July 27 and 28, our school improvement teams will be meeting at the middle school, our elementary school, and our middle school improvement teams will be meeting at the middle school to work with our State Department, NCDPI, to unpack the comprehensive need assessment that occurred the last school year. And so we're looking forward to having some great feedback from the staff at DPI, so that moving into the upcoming school year, we can work towards improving our areas of improvement. Also, on the line of continuous improvement, we have a lot of different things to look forward to. As mentioned already, we're looking to implement a very rigorous after-school program. I'm working with finance and as well as federal programs to figure out what that funding look like, so we'll know which direction to move forward with. But we're definitely looking forward to a very rigorous after-school program that will start sooner than later for our students. So we're looking forward to that. We also are providing throughout the day daily interventions at all of our schools. We're also bringing back a tutoring program at the elementary school. We have three tutors that helped us last year. One of them was recognized tonight, and so we're bringing that particular individual as well as the other two back at the elementary school, so that they can implement daily tutorial for our students that need it the most. We also have hired a letters coordinator via NCDPI, and that person will be in the building to help assist teachers and support the letters implementation. We also are working with East Carolina University to continue that partnership to help all teachers, but especially our beginning teachers and our new teachers. We're looking to continue the smart lunch at the high school, so that our students during lunchtime, when they need homework help or any type of instructional assistance, they can get that during their lunchtime. So we're going to implement that this year. And our instructional framework this year is going to be our learning focus framework. And board members, you have that information in your packet. We're going to kick that off August the 8th. Learning focus team will be in the district working with all teachers and teachers assistants and our instructional staff to kick that off for us. And then we're going to follow up on the next day, August 8th, with our first rollout of our module, which is going to be classroom environment. So we're looking forward to that. And I also want to remind everyone that we're going to be going through our Cognia accreditation, because we have to be accredited by the district by the end of the school year. And so you have that outlined in your packet as well, board members, and I will be talking to everyone about that implementation as we move forward throughout the year. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Williams, I have a couple of questions. Okay, Dr. Carpenter, my first question is, I know we talked about the after-school program that we are looking to have, and it will serve all our students at all 4 schools. I know that in the past, there was an issue with getting, staff to be able to work that evening after school to support them, especially at the high school level. I'm sure that Dr. Robertson and Mr. Hopkins have a plan to put in place to make sure that we can have coverage with that. We were short to the point that we had our coaches who stepped in and supported our students as well. Is that still an option?
Yes, we're also asking that all teachers, teacher assistants, everyone on board to be a part of the after-school program.
Okay.
So we're looking for everyone to be a part of the after-school program.
Okay.
That's still an option.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that all of our students are covered as far as getting that extra support that they will need, especially as you said, with the transition that we'll have to make next year, starting next year for our new school. I saw different types of support and things that we're going to do up here, but I don't see where we are including our instructional coaches who should be in those schools daily providing support. In addition to the instructional coaches, our coordinator for instructional services as well. So how would they play into this? Because that will be a big support in when we're talking about increasing our test scores.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I did not add them to the list, but yes, we will have one instructional coach at the elementary school, an interventionist, as well as an instructional coach at the middle school. And remember, that person has AIG duties as well. And we also have an instructional coach that will be serving both of our high schools. So yes, they will be working with teachers daily. They will be working with individual teachers. They will be going into classrooms, helping them during their planning period with whatever needs that they may have instructionally, as well as going into PLCs, and they will be a part of the entire C&I team, including myself, will be a part of the learning focused instructional framework. So every early release day, last year, if you all remember, every early release day, teachers had the option of going to individual breakout sessions. And so the design this year would be a little different, because every early release day, they will be with the C&I team, getting those necessary supports that they will need to implement the learning focus framework, which involves PD, instructional strategies, and best practices. And so I think that's what we need at the moment. So all the instructional coaches will be involved in that process.
So we currently have one, or at least interviewed for one at the elementary level, one at the middle school. So since the person that's at the middle school will be also doing AIG, what support is in place there? Since that person's time is going to be split.
Right, so really the high school person, and I say high school because that's where they're assigned physically, but all of our instructional coaches, all of our C&I team will work together to serve teachers based on the need. And so if a high school coach has to go over to a middle school, to support math or reading or whatever it may be, we are open to doing that. We want to meet the needs of the teachers and the students. So we're open.
Okay, so you said we have 3 coaches. What about our coordinator? Are they providing support as well?
Yes, we have our MTSS coordinator working with social and emotional learner. They are also part of our C&I team. And so we will be meeting together as the supplemental instructional leaders in the building to make sure that we're serving our students, because even our social workers, our counselors, all of them are on our team to make sure that we're providing the support for the whole child.
Okay. And where are we with the accreditation? I know you said that it's due the end of the year. Are we where we should be as far as being prepared for this accreditation?
Yeah, so you may not have the chart in front of you, but right now we start in the fall doing a self-assessment. So the C&I team is currently working on the self-assessment. We also have to do conduct observations, but of course we can't do that until school starts. So we're where we need to be with what is listed on the fall schedule. We already administered surveys and things of that nature, so we're already collecting data in reference to the community, the students, because really some of the surveys were being collected during the summer. So we're actually ahead on that particular part. And then in October, if you could see on the list, that's when we actually go into the second part of the list, which will include providing evidence of the things that we say we are doing. We actually have to look at our school improvement plan and show evidence of these are the things that we say we need, and we have to make sure we provide evidence to show that we are doing those things.
Okay. And our support program for our new teachers as well as veteran teachers. I know that we have not been giving our new teachers, I know that we're contracting with ECU. Though we're contracting with them, we still need someone local who's supporting them to make sure they are on the right track as far as testing requirements and courses and all of that. Do we have someone local, like in our building, in our district, that can support them in addition to us contracting with ECU? Because that is very important that we have someone here that they can talk to when they have questions as well and help them in getting that test taken care of.
Yes, we're gonna make sure before school starts that every new teacher, beginning teacher, has a mentor. We're gonna make sure that the testing coordinators in the buildings are trained and that they do, which is required training for our teachers because they have to give NC check-ins often as benchmarks along the way. So we're gonna make sure they have the training for that. And we're gonna also make sure that our support staff are working with them during professional development days, doing PLCs, and just going in during planning periods, doing observations so that we can see where the needs are, so we can meet them where they are.
When I speak about testing, I'm talking about praxis. For our
Yes.
teachers, not just the testing that we're doing for our students. I'm talking about we need someone in place to support our teachers with their testing to make sure that they are where they need to be.
Yes. We
In
will-
addition to ECU.
Yes. And that may be something that ECU could help us with as well. Because I'm sure they're one of the EPPs.
I'm sure, but I'm saying having someone here locally to, support them. Usually that comes out of HR. So
Exactly.
where they
But
meet
I'll-
once a month and all that.
I will,
Dr. Carpenter,
yes.
my question, I know our HR director had, contracted with A+ Test Prep. And they did come one time last school year. And we had planned to do some other things with them to assist our new teachers and our teachers who haven't passed their practice, to give them some assistance. And she had left an outline of how she could help our teachers. Have we looked into that further? She gives that one-on-one assistance. And I know that all of our new teachers or teachers who need to pass did not even attend the session. So we need to have some contracts with our teachers that they do what they are accountable to do what we're paying for and attend the classes and programs that we have set up to assist them as well. Or we're wasting money and time, and our scholars are not getting what they need in the classroom.
So I will reach out to them and follow up with them as well and give you an update. But that's a need that they provide. We definitely want to reach out and get that service for our teachers.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brown. Next, we have Student Support Service and Operations, Mr. Futrell.
All right, good evening, Board Chair Williams, board members, Acting Superintendent, Dr. Carpenter. I'll share a few updates from Student Services and Operations. I have a few pre-K EC children department updates to share. Currently, we've received 31 preschool applications. That's 25 complete and approved applications, 4 applications for students who receive EC services, and we have 2 incomplete applications that we're working to move towards completion of those 31. This is our current K-12 EC student counts. And of course, their eligibility area.
Excuse
Any
me,
questions?
Mr. Futrell, if we can go back to that slide, yes. The one that's awaiting eligibility, will this be done, since it's over the summer, within the 90-day timeline?
I have Ms. Fields here to answer that.
Okay.
The EC director manages and monitors the timeline of from referral to determination.
Mhm.
Board members. Yes, this will be completed.
Can you speak up a little bit, Ms. Fields?
Yeah, could you repeat that?
I can't hear you.
Oh, yes. Yes, the eligibility application, yes, it'll be ready.
Any more questions for EC, pre-K?
Did you say EC or pre-K or EC and pre-K?
Either?
Yes, I have a question about the IDEA grant that was submitted earlier last school year. Have we received confirmation on receipt and was it complete? And please give me an update.
The grant has been submitted and it's in the process of being reviewed by DPI. And the comments will be responded upon and resubmitted.
Ms. Fields?
Yes,
What about the budget for it? Was that attached? Is that because I know at one point, something that you gave us that we looked at last school year, it was the exact same thing that had been submitted before with no changes from school year to school year. So is that, and I know that can't be accurate. So do we have the accurate information sent to DPI?
I'm not sure about the previous school year budget. That was the same, but for this year, the budget is being worked upon. Me and Ms. Campbell have a meeting on July 31st to work through those budget.
It was I'm referring to information that you gave us, Ms. Fields.
What, Ms. Murray Robinson, what are you asking? Because I don't think that we're not getting a clear understanding. What time frame?
My question was, I just kind of added to what Ms. K. Robinson had asked about the information, if it had been received, has everything been turned in and was it accurate? Because it sounds like some things were turned in and it wasn't complete. So my question was, did the numbers even change this year as far as the budget and all that's attached to it?
Well, the grant has been submitted and it is an ongoing process. The reviewers look at it from DPI, and if they see issues with it, they offer suggestions to do. And you have to go back and revise it and resubmit it. So we're in that process now.
So the revisions has not been resubmitted as of today.
Right, the revisions are due July 31st. And it will be completed and submitted by then.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Futrell and Ms. Fields, I need the two of you all to get together and make sure that that happens in a timely manner. If it's due the July 31st, we don't need to wait to July 31st to get it in. It should have already been in if you already have what needs to be revised on the grant. Plus, we need to see verification that it has been submitted, a copy of it or something, so we'll know. So we'll make sure that our EC funds are here and we're gonna be able to be utilized for our scholars in the EC department.
So those requests, I think how we want to channel that through Dr. Carpenter to share with the board verification of work completed by the administration. And what was the first part of that question?
I don't think it was a question, it was a request that we not wait to July 31st to submit the revisions if we already know that revisions need to be made and the budget needs to be completed. We need to go on and get it in beforehand, so we'll make sure our money is secured for our Weldon City School scholars that are in the EC department. And I do believe that's the protocol that you all would get together as the director and her supervisor, and you would give it to our interim to Dr. Carpenter, and she will submit it to us during her weekly updates or however she so desires.
We'll meet the timelines like we have always.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so just some student services updates. We had a team of school administrators and student services support staff meet with a community provider who was offering day treatment program services for our district. They provided an overview of what that would look like in our schools. As you know, social and emotional and mental health for our students is paramount and priority. As a result, our team of school administrators and student services staff and district administrators were also present. We're very excited about the opportunity of what day treatment could look like in our schools, K through 12. And as a result of that meeting, I think there was some additional discussion that led us to also consider looking at a lot of different community providers that are out there and making sure that we are choosing the most appropriate provider for our students and families. And so what we discussed was that our next steps would be to work with the LMHE, the local mental health entity in our region, that's Trillium, to do an RFP to all the local providers so they can submit proposals on who would be interested in providing day treatment services to our students, for our students, families, and staff here in Weldon City Schools. I've heard many requests about making sure that our staff also receive services, and that is paramount. I mean, it's stressful. Teachers, administrators, everyone in schools have stressful jobs, and we know that does impact our wellness. And so we want to make sure that we have the best provider, and there's a selection process that does that. And so that will be the next step, hearing, and now that we kind of got all of everybody excited about the opportunities for day treatment program. So that's an update just from thinking about SEL and mental health in our district. Anything else relating, any questions about social and emotional? All right, so we hope to bring before you, the district will bring a RFP for you to review and approve in the very near future, so that can be posted and we can begin to receive proposals from our community providers. And I hope that this medium will serve as notification to our community, and certainly we're free to invite members to apply or submit proposals as well, including the provider that we've already heard from. Any questions? All right, school safety. Dr. Carpenter and I are planning to meet with the chair and his leadership staff next week. It's kind of an annual meeting that usually happens just because of the partnership that exists. We know they have we utilize sheriff SROs in our building, but they're also the emergency management first responders in the event of any type of school crisis and school emergency. So it's important that we all be on the same page and understanding our roles and responsibilities. One thing this year is we hope to also share with them and get additional feedback. As you recall, last year was the first year the principals and their teams worked really hard to implement their plans, school safety plans in the school risk management portal. But really now we begin to also make sure that that is widely communicated and we get additional feedback as that it becomes a working document for our schools. Also, there was a follow-up question from our steering committee meeting in regards to building the new school about the window egress. Hope to get some, with the sheriff's department being our first responders, lean on them for some expertise on whether or not that's something, how that's gonna look, so that we can get back with the steering committee, including our architects, on how to provide some suggestions, some consultation to you all on what that looks like moving forward, based on what our emergency response teams are also saying about window egress. As you recall, we did use school safety grant funds back in May to purchase 2 open gate security screening systems. Of course, there were a lot more that we need, but this was the funding that we had available to purchase these immediately. Looking at some of the data, we know we need them across all schools. We'll be looking at some of our discipline data as one indicator to determine where we prioritize that. I know we just had a conversation about where we are with using federal dollars. And as we await that, we know that those will probably, the additional screening or opportunity for you to approve the purchase of additional screening will come much later once we have secured the funding source, hopefully through ESSER. But we know we'll have 2 on the way. First week in August has been what's communicated to me from our company chair of CEIA that you all approved previously. And we'll be looking at some data that's going to help us determine which schools get them. We know that typically middle schools and high schools have higher numbers of what we call reportable offenses when it comes to discipline data. So that might be one indicator to help us think about where we want to make sure we are screening as a priority until we get additional equipment, because we know all of our schools it's necessary to have safety in place, but we got to make some decisions based on prioritizing where we begin. Also, I'll be at a training on a workshop more so next week after next, last week in July. It's the annual training where we hear about the school safety grant each year. Spoke with Dr. Carpenter. She thought we still need to make sure that there's representation at that meeting this year to make sure that we are keeping up with the grant cycle for this year's funding for school safety grants. Because of course, there's always ongoing equipment purchases that we can make sure that we're keeping our schools safe. Any questions about school safety?
Mr. Futrell, is at the RISE conference that you're
It's the RISE conference sponsored by the Center for Safer Schools. Yes, ma'am.
okay, that's what I thought. Okay. You didn't say.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am, we have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Easter. Hope to get an update from the sheriff when we meet about the filling the SRO vacancy at elementary school too. They had someone coming, and then I think that person backed out, so it'll be a good opportunity to find out an update on that when we meet next week.
Okay, Ms. Barry Robinson.
Yes, just wanted to follow up, Mr. Futrell. You were saying you were going to get us some information about the COVID program extended into next school year, or you said you think it was some money out there, but you were going to get back with us.
Yeah, I can go with that now if it's in order, or I can wait until I get to COVID.
Totally up to you, as long as we get an update.
Okay, if we can wait until we get to Mr. Miller, and I think I have an update for you.
Okay.
All right. Next is operations side of facilities. Just want to share how our custodians are working really hard to get our buildings in order and cleaned up to welcome our students and teachers back for the year. They are making sure that the clean floors go a long way and they're shined up and look good. We know that has an impact on student learning, right? The environment. And so Our custodians are doing a fantastic job, working really hard to get that done. Actually, I had one call today, said, come check out how shiny they are. That, I won't say, but that was well listened, but they are really just working hard to get everything in place. We are short-staffed at the elementary school. Got one full-time gentleman he's been cranking out some work to get those floors done, but I'm gonna have to get him some help. Next week.
Can some of the custodian from the other school, as they get caught up, go over and help?
I'm running out of time. That would ideal be the case, but I'm gonna have to get some help from the outside to get some floor
I
work done.
understand.
Yes, ma'am.
We need help.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's been moving furniture, whole classrooms, and my maintenance department's been going out to help too. But so if you see the grass getting a little bit high in some places and things, just be patient with us. We're trying to, work with limited staff, and the rain and humidity hasn't helped with the grass side, but we gotta also get the inside ready. But we'll make sure that the first day is a focus to make sure that the grounds are also up to par and looking good for families too.
Question, Mr. Futrell. I know that we approved for a full-time position at the elementary school, so I'm not sure where you all are in the process of interviewing and all. But because the current people at our current custodial staff at the elementary school is working so hard, you're saying something about the grass. Why can't the person who's responsible for grass cutting take care of that? Because Mr. Arrington is so short at the elementary school. I'm sure that would help him out a lot because he's working hard to try to get that building up to par for the school year.
Yeah, he is, but we can't stop cutting the grass.
No, I know we can't stop, and I'm not saying to stop. What I'm saying is the person who is responsible for keeping the grass cut at all of our schools, why can't they take that on so that Mr. Arrington can spend most of his? So I'm sorry, so that the head custodian at the elementary school can focus on the inside of the building because they are short. The person who is responsible for cutting grass in the district, why can't they take that on? And that will support him a little bit.
That's what's happening. So we have a maintenance tech who's solely cutting grass right now by himself, but also have the custodian who's part-time at the elementary school, who's also working inside the building by himself. Is there another proposal, suggestion?
My suggestion was, what I was saying is, because the head custodian has to do some of the grass cutting at the elementary school, correct?
I've taken that off and given him some maintenance help to help with that right now, so that he can.
Okay. That's what I was gonna say, because that will help him a little bit.
Right, there's a courtyard area that usually he would help with. Mr. Wood and I have been in conversation at least once every day, trying to maintain and put a program in place to make sure that things are getting done.
Okay. So do you know where we are with interviewing for that position that we approved?
Mr. Wood, the custodian position at the elementary school.
We did have a candidate. All right, so we're currently working on that, filling that position. We did have the candidate that was selected, however, it was miscommunication as far as it being part-time versus full-time. We do now have it listed as full-time, so we're just in the mix of seeing if that person could be squared away.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, honey. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, any other questions about custodial part? All right, hearing none. Just to remind the board around the current functioning of our air conditioning system at the middle school. Just to remind you all, it's met its life. It needs to be replaced. We're patching it. Our maintenance technician, who's highly skilled in HVAC repair, he's maintaining that part of it daily. having to go out, do all kinds of things to keep it going, to keep the staff cool, because you know that impacts everything else. Your wax don't dry well on the floor, if it ain't the right temperature in the building. So, and then, you know, kids start coming, the staff start coming to the building, they need to be cool. So they're doing everything they can to keep that going, but we have called one of our contractors that services that equipment to see what can they do to keep it going for another 3 years. Because we know students will be in there until August 26th, through July 2026. And we just gotta make sure that we're well prepared for students and staff from both schools that'll be over there to remain comfortable for learning to happen. We did get the ports put in, the connections in the event that both chillers, which cools the system, go out. We may have to rely on temporary chillers in place, put those in place. We had the upfront cost, so we don't have to wait for that 2 or 3 weeks for that to happen. Now, which you all approved that, I think our last board meeting or board meeting before that. But now what would need to happen is those chillers just went straight down and don't come back up. They won't rely on leasing or renting mobile chillers that they would just back up a trailer. And now you can connect right to it to keep the environment comfortable and cool. So I'll just tell you that to be prepared in the event to make it, so you already have thinking about if that's something you want to do. That does not come cheap. It's about, last I think I checked, about $16,000 a month to bring in those chillers for temporary cooling. But also, yeah, so it can be very, very costly. Also, got to replace the fire panel at the middle school. That's at its age. It's my understanding. For some time, we just need to get that replaced. The fire panel needs to be updated at the middle school. I'm working with our contractor who services that. He's going to work on getting me a quote. So I'll probably be. I hope I don't have to bring that before you, but if I do, just be prepared for that quote. Hopefully, that quote doesn't require me to bring that before you. You know what I mean? We'll see. Security cameras, our vendor that was approved, Security Connections, they are currently wiring up, getting additional wires in place at the middle school and elementary school to add those additional cameras that were approved. They're working on that today. Had a lift over at the middle school getting that done. They've also worked at elementary school, but the goal is to have that in place by the first day of school, is to have new camera systems, with clear view throughout our schools to increase school safety. Prior to coming to the meeting today, I was in Durham with the Finance Committee. I was invited to the Business and Finance Summer Conference, primarily to hear about the updates regarding the capital needs improvement part grants that are forthcoming. As you recall, in our previous steering committee meetings with the new school, there was some discussion about additional monies that would be forthcoming possibly for previous grant recipients such as us, of the like $50 million that we received, that due to some inflationary measures and things that have happened as a result of our current economic times, that we would potentially be able to, we would be able to apply if it was offered for $10 more million. And so we heard a little bit about that today in that meeting, and they gave a tentative timeline, but they can't give a definite timeline because all of this is based on the budget. But what they do know is that Senate and the House currently in the legislature, they both are saying that that's going to be part of what's offered in the budget to school districts such as us to be able to apply. And of course, as you know, that would be, as reiterated strongly today, a joint proposal as the previous proposal between this board and your Board of Halifax County Commissioners to submit. Tentatively, they're looking at if budget things are moving along as they say. August 23rd would be the application and guidance opening. September that's in August of 2023, not August 23rd. I'm sorry, that was just my notes here. August of 2023, there will be an application and guidance available for school districts. September of 2023, and this is all anticipated, nothing set in stone, would be the application deadline. September of 2023 would be the application deadline, and this is coming from the School Planning Division of North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And then October of 2023 would be the grant awards. You'll be notified about if you got the additional $10 million if you choose to pursue.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Did you attend this conference by yourself from Well?
No, so I went with the finance department.
Okay, I just want to make sure that somebody else has knowledge of, because of the deadline, the anticipated deadline.
Yes.
We don't know if that's going yet.
Yeah, I went with the finance department, and there was a member from Weldon City in that meeting.
Who went with you?
From the finance department?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell was there.
Okay.
Finance, the chief finance, interim chief finance officer, accounts payable, payroll. Yeah, that's it from finance department.
And I only asked that because none of them on the steering committee. So you were the only one that went from the steering committee.
Yes, to bring information back.
Yes. But I'm saying that those individuals are not a part of the steering committee for the new bill. And we need to make sure that we have somebody else on the steering committee. Actually. Go. That's the point I'm driving at. Thank you.
And also, just want to remind you all that prior to the grant received, the $50 million grant received for the building of the high school, you had received a $100,000 athletic grant, right, to do some modifications or upgrades, repairs to the press box, right? But you know, of course, now you're going to get all new press box. So I spoke to the gentleman today just to see what could be done to make sure that Weldon City Schools still can take advantage of money that was still awarded to us. And one of the things that he shared was that it's a K-12 award, and that there might be some areas of opportunity when you think about students at play and what that would mean at elementary school, right? And so he gave me some direction on what to do with that. I'll work with Dr. Carpenter to see if she wants to proceed with changing anything. But I would certainly suggest that you don't allow that $100,000 to expire. It expires June of 2024. Because there might be some ways to use that at elementary school. We talk about children at play, because it was a K-12 grant.
Question.
Yeah.
That's really question. Has everything that could be done been done to the part in the gym where the concession is being done? I mean, is it any other modifications that we can make in there to utilize some of that? I'm talking about in the gym, and as much as we're keeping that
Yeah.
gym. Have all of the modifications that could be made, or have you talked with the athletic director as
Yeah,
far as that is
We
concerned?
spoke last week about that, this pot of money, and that being some potential there for the concession stand. And I talked with him about it, and he agreed that that could be something as well. Couldn't use it for equipment or anything like that, but upgrades to the building structure itself.
Right.
That would be something that.
I think we need to look into that, because initially when we applied for it, it was for the press box, and yes, something to be done. And then as much as we're keeping the gym and we're making all of those modifications, I mean, yeah, I'm all in favor of some going to the elementary school, but I definitely think if we can, you and the athletic director can get together, and the principal, Mr. Hopkins, and we can come up with something that at least we can use a few $1,000s or whatever we need to make some modifications there as well. We're gonna have a new school coming here. We want that gym, I mean, it's named after a bunch. We want to make sure that that's looking nice and presentable as possible as well. So,
Absolutely. All right. And just to remind you, there's a steering committee meeting next week, July 26th, at 10 o'clock, for the news.
Mr. Futrell,
Yes, ma'am.
can you get, the board a copy of the updated athletic facilities grant, please, and the amendments that were made to the budget?
So no, nothing has been done yet. Well, I think what I'm sharing is that because after kind of getting some information today about how we can amend it, it requires some planning and some conversation with a team of folks who wanted to have some input on it.
Okay, again, can we get a copy of what we have and the
Oh, absolutely.
parameters and a budget, a sample budget of what we can use it for the board to look at as well? We used to have some input in it when we had the finance committee, and we know that has been dissolved as of January. So, the board needs to see that as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'll share that with Dr. Carpenter and she can give it to you all. All right, any other questions about facilities or operations? I don't really have an update for transportation, child nutrition, but I got questions. I'll try to answer. All right, so COVID, can we switch to go COVID now? Is that a different one? It's just all wrapped in. So COVID testing. Before we get started, Mr. Miller, Ms. Bird Robinson, sorry. Ms. Bird Robinson, you had a question about COVID testing?
Yes, it was the same question. Are we going to be able to continue that service? I know that before, I think it was 2 months ago, we said that some contact had been made with MACO and all of that. And then I know I asked about funding and we were told that there was some funds available or that, you know, you were going to look into it. So I'm just trying to figure out, are we going to be able to provide that service to our staff and students next school year?
Yeah, if we have a funding source, we need to identify a funding source if we want to continue that service. Right now, the state that was the state grant that was providing that, that ended. Unless the school district has a funding source, we cannot, I mean, we would need a funding source to enter into that contract that you're referencing regarding MACO. And if we're going to continue to employ our testers, nurse extenders, of course, you need a fund source for them as well.
Okay, I thought that is what you all were bringing back to us. Is if, you know, what part of money we were going to be able to pay it out of, or if we were going to be able to do it at all.
The initial pot of money the only pot of money that I think has been discussed is ESSER, which I think we kind of heard where that is left.
So is this something that we need to continue? Because I know schools and offices and other places are doing away with it.
Right.
So is this something that we really need to continue?
And speaking with colleagues across the state, they have discontinued this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other places have discontinued. So I don't see the need for us to keep it on. That's just my opinion. I think we need to be done with that.
Well, my question was simply because it was a service that we had. I'm not saying that we need to or that we have to, but if there was money there, then we don't want to send back any money. That was my reason for bringing it up. But if we have a pot of money that we can use to do something else to support our students, then we have to support our students. And I know that some of the money you said, Dr. Carpenter said that, and Dr. Robertson also said that we're going to use it for after-school remediation program.
Yeah. So I'm not aware of any other funding source other than ESSER that would have been able to support that.
Okay.
All right. So now, any other question? I'll now turn it over to Mr. Miller to provide his monthly report.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you all.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Boudreaux. You're welcome. Good evening, board members, board chair, and vice chair. And
Good evening.
superintendent. Now for our COVID-19 testing program updates. We have a district-wide total of 425 participants in the testing program. We have 7 additional students at the Elementary Global Academy and 27 additional students with Wellness STEM in middle school. Our positive cases as of today, that last case was back in February 6th, and that's for students. And the last positive case for the staff members was April 24th. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
You have a great evening.
We have, recruitment, human resources.
I may have put that up there as a question. At this point in time, who will be doing recruitment other than principals? And who will be carrying out the HR duties that's qualified to carry them out? And maybe let me put it this way. We need someone qualified in HR to carry out HR duties. And we need someone to recruit staff for Weldon City Schools. That has not been done. Most of the people that we receive, they're being recruited by our principals. It's a part of HR to recruit and to retain. We need to be accountable for that. So we need to be mindful of the decisions we make when we sit around a table and just vote yes to everything and not use wise and intelligent information as we receive tonight and be encouraged to vote for stuff that we know is wrong or looked upon negatively when we vote, when we say something about voting on certain items and ignored when we know it's incorrect. That is not fair.
Mr. Williams, if I may. Based upon the information that Dr. Carpenter shared with us, I really don't think there's any information that we can really get from HR at this time. So, I mean, if we didn't get it before, what? April? We really can't get it. So, I mean, I guess I'm saying we're not gonna get anything from HR at this point, so, you know.
All right, next item then is board members meeting date, Ms. Robinson.
We need to come up with some meeting dates that we have to discuss with Ms. Campbell regarding our budget. Also meeting dates to discuss our training that we still need from North Carolina School Board Association. And we need to keep meeting dates, just not set up special meetings on a wing and a prayer for one thing to vote on. All of our time is precious. I feel I have an obligation to this board. I'm on vacation right now. Instead of out having fun, I'm sitting here on this meeting. And I've been here since 5:30 and we don't know, we have to go back into closed session, but I put this first while I'm on vacation. I expect everybody to put Weldon City Schools first too, whether you're an employee or a board member. We need to be accountable for what we do and not just meet to meet. We need to make good decisions and intelligent decisions when we're meeting and not just meet for frivolous and things that it's a drop of a hat. I expect all of our employees to be accountable. So we need to come up with our board meetings and stick to them. And everyone needs to be able to attend and be agreeable, when we meeting outside of our regular scheduled board meetings. Just not forget about those who just can't be there. That's not fair either.
Okay, I'll respond to a couple of those items. The training with NCSBA, y'all said hold the training because you didn't know what the budget would be. One training was with the master training, school board training, which was $1,500 per session, not including travel or per diem. So nothing else was done with that. The other part of that program was, she said they could offer something at $375 per section, but you may only have 3 sessions, maybe 4. So that was placed on hold because nothing concrete was determined by us. Next thing is with the dates that we had special call meetings, we had those dates set because when I sent the poll out for who would be available, the last of June through the end of July, we only had one date when all 7 members were could be present. So that left us, when I talked with the Attorney Weber, I told him we only had one date. That was the 5th, was too close to what we was trying to do. And so he said that if we couldn't get 7, then go for 6. Now, I used the information that y'all sent me that you would be available. So when we had 6, that fell through. So then when I talked to Attorney Weber, he said, well, just get a date where maybe you could have a quorum. Ms. Hale and Ms. Hale's vice chair, we got together and we met over at the community college to try to come up with a fair way to do it. So when we looked at we didn't look at who could be present. What we did was selected the dates that were at least 6 people could be present. So we put the dates in a hat on the table, a folded piece of paper, and Ms. Hale pulled one. She pulled the 17th, and I pulled one, which was the 18th. We sent those dates out because they were the 2 dates that were selected, randomly selected. And then, of course, on the 18th, that day was not a quorum selected, so we couldn't have that date either. And some of these meetings that we're having, there are special call meetings because they think there are things that come up when we have to try to have a vote on through a quorum, whether it's virtual or in person. So it wasn't just haphazardly pick 2 days, but we did it through the best process that we thought, considering that board members couldn't be present at that time. So now we're looking at August, which I'll talk about in the closed session. Next item,
Mr. Webb,
accountability.
I have a concern that probably is going to go for both. I'm not sure if Ms. Robinson was referring to the dates that we had when we were going to do the evaluation. Those dates we already had in place. So those might be some of the dates that she was referring to that we had in place that we could have probably met on. But going into accountability, I definitely, we definitely have to hold ourselves accountable as a board so that it will go down to our central office staff, our principals, our parents, and our students. We all need to be accountable. Talking about the training from the NCSBA, that is definitely something that I said that we definitely need to get because we need that training to support us as a board. I know that we are in the red, but we have a lot of things that we need to make sure that we put in place. Now, I know that our money, as I said, is in the red, but when we're looking at employing or contracting, we're paying almost $200 an hour, and we can't get a training that we need, then that's an issue. Because we definitely need to have this training to support all of us in all of our work. So we need to look and see where we can get some money from so that we can get the training that we need so that we can be a board that's accountable for what is going on in our district so that we can support our staff and our families better.
Mr. Williams, also, the retreat that the central office had planned and did not have or will have later was set aside for $50,000. 10,000 of that could easily help our board to get the training that is so most definitely in the need of. And that's coming out of the ERSA budget. So there are funds available for training.
Okay, next we have a break. Do we need to take a break?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a 3-minute break. And then we'll report back.
He left that there. I get it.
Just here, you know, the time.
Oh.
And maybe go on the plan,
3 minutes.
Okay, we're going back into your order. Ms. Barry Robinson. Ms. Barry Robinson,
Yes, sir.
okay, Ms. Kim Robinson. Ms. Kim Robinson. Ms. Kim,
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
okay, now we'll have public forum. We'll go with Ms. Brooks. Good afternoon.
Good evening to all.
You will have 3 minutes and Ms. Hill be.
Well, I could take a minute to explain why I am dressed so casual. Yesterday, I attended a funeral of a former schoolmate who taught 40 years in Wake County schools, only to end up with cancer in the past 2 years. A sister of mine who was 39.9 years in Pitt County schools, upon her retirement, diagnosed with Parkinson's. So it pays to do what's right while you can. And I was on my way back and the storm came, the tornado in Scotland. So I used good common sense and stayed and drove in. Parents, to the schools in August 2023, oh, you didn't tell me I could start. Let me just wait for you.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. penned this thought on education, and I quote, "The function of education is to teach one to think intrinsically and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Action, not talk, is the key to success of schools appropriately. You must act appropriately with your heart and head to keep students from becoming a statistics to the school to prison pipeline. What are you doing, Weldon City Schools Board of Education, to prevent that? I have petitioned parents in the Weldon City Schools District. I have not fully gotten all of that project together, but I will be sending it to each and every one of you. Parents have said enough is enough. Mrs. Brooks, you've been speaking for 25 years. I can walk and talk everything I say. Some nuggets for you. Mrs. Sharon Story, a first-class educator. God bless her soul. Do you know where you're going, Weldon City Schools Board of Education? Where are your curriculum experts, especially at your foundation? You need them. The K-5 I'm talking about, I know I'm an expert in that area. Where are your leaders who have a vested interest in Weldon City Schools? Children in the school system expect and work toward equity. Where are they? Where are the ones who live, who get jobs and live, purchase homes in the district? A vested interest. Our community servants, you live in the community, you pay taxes here. Why are you a member of the Weldon City School Board of Education? If the parents and citizens demanded each of you step down tonight and an election will be held tomorrow, how many of you would be in the position you are tonight? It's time for the parents. I'm not arrogant, I'm just telling you the truth. Sent anointed and appointed. As I state, I can walk everything I talk and talk everything I walk. I have been speaking before the Weldon City Schools Board of Education for 25 years. I thank you, and I know changes are gonna come. Thank you so much. I look forward to you responding to me in the near future.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Mr. Davis. You have 3 minutes. Ms. Hale is keeping the time. She'll let you know.
Good evening, board. Dr. Carpenter. Last month, when I addressed the board, a rebuttal was given to my comments. I was always told that a hit dog will holler. And if you can't say amen, then say ouch. Board members, you own the superintendent recruitment, interviewing and selection processes. Which is it? Are you not recruiting the right people? Are you not being thorough during the interview? Or are you not allowing them to do their job? Again, the accountability lies with you. I've heard many things, and I have personally witnessed several others. It appears that the school board will not allow the superintendent to do the job they were hired to do, meaning manage personnel and day-to-day operations of the district. The superintendent has been pressured to hire family members and friends when it has absolutely nothing to do with the education of our students. Some board members have disapproved and become verbally abusive when the superintendent makes unfavorable decisions. I heard and even witnessed on your YouTube channel, board members, Sykes, Robinson, and Bird Robinson continue to circumvent the system to request and obtain information from central office staff versus requesting and receiving it through the superintendent. Now, this has been and continues to be a problem, an ongoing problem. Even today, please stop attempting to play the role of superintendent and allow the actual superintendent to do their job. Boards should show cohesiveness and not an evil and selfish nature. The last 9 people in this superintendent role has attempted to function in a toxic and hostile work environment. In the last few years, many excellent personnel have exited Weldon City Schools, and several others having turned in their resignation so that they don't get the same type of treatment that's been given their co-workers and leaders. I mentioned showing up for a united front at the high school graduation, but let me also add that when you have the death of a tenured teacher in the system and you don't show up for the funeral, that is unacceptable and embarrassing to the district. If we're going to hire and retain qualified personnel, the board must change its interaction with the superintendent, show them the proper respect, and allow them to do their job. A house divided against itself cannot stand. By impeding on the superintendent's job, you are playing tug of war with the kids' education, and the students are the ones that are losing. The public has placed their trust in you by electing you, and you have failed us over and over again.
3 minutes.
Thank
Mr.
you
Davis.
for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Williams.
If I may. And of course, I checked with our legal counsel. Okay, go ahead. Beforehand, in case this thing came, because, you know. Go ahead. I would encourage the person that just spoke, Mr. Davis. I know him, And when I'm accused of something that I'm not guilty of, I would appreciate, you know me, Mr. Davis, and I know you. We can kindly have a conversation. And I'll stop it there with that. I'll gladly have a conversation with you, but some of what you said is, that's not me. But I'll gladly talk to you. But I do want to say in response to the school teacher that passed away, as a person with a schedule and being a pastor myself, I can't be everywhere. And on that particular day, I had something going on that I could not change. So me not being there was not disrespectful to the district or the parents. I offered prayer in my own way, but I could not be at the homegoing service of that particular teacher. And my philosophy is, you can't make them all, you don't miss them all. That was one that my schedule, I'm only speaking for me, did not allow me to attend. So that was not demeaning or embarrassing from me. I was heartbroken that one of our teachers passed away. I just couldn't be there. I did want to say that because I'm quite sure family members may be looking and listening. There was no disrespect intended, no disrespect meant. I just couldn't be there. And what we have said as board members, that we try to be at different places, and all of us can't go. That's with workshops, that's with opportunities to advance ourselves as school board members. We don't always make them all. So, you know, I did want to say that, but everything else, I will gladly talk to you, but in as much as you call my name, and our attorney has said, if your name is called, you can respond. So I will gladly have a conversation with you, because I think some of the information that you were talking about tonight, if it was given to, I'm not talking about what you said you may have seen, even when we see something, you can see a glass with that's half full, and some look at it half full, and some look at it half empty. It depends upon who's looking at it. So I will gladly have a conversation with you as a community member. You're vested in this community, and I'm in this community as well. And I will gladly have a conversation with you, and feel free to call me anytime. We always talk when we see each other, and ain't nothing changed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Week.
All right. Okay, next we'll move to the consent agenda. First, before we move
Mr.
on.
Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
my name was called.
Go ahead, Ms. Kim Robinson.
Thank you. I'd like to say that nothing that was said about me was true. And I really don't appreciate my name being defamed. And there can be repercussions behind that. So if you have to talk to me, if you'd like to talk to me, my number is available. If you have something you'd like to say to me, my number is available. I work hard for Weldon City Schools on the board. And I don't appreciate being negatively responded about at any time. If you want to know something about me or why I didn't do something, ask me. Don't ask anybody else, because what they tell you, they don't know. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Robinson.
Okay. Basically some of the same things that were said. Mr. Davis, you know me as well. Any one of the school board members can give you my phone number, and I'll be more than happy to speak with you. I am a vested member in this community, a proud graduate of Weldon High School, class of 1994. I give my all to Weldon City Schools, and I will continue to do that, because I want for all of our students the same thing that I want for my own child, and that is the very best. So I want that for everybody, every student, every staff in our school district. If you're saying that things were requested from the central office, yes, as board members, we do request things, and that's for everybody. But you as a citizen can go in and ask for anything that's public knowledge at any point. So it's no different from a person who's elected and a community person. If there's something that you want is public information, you can receive that. I would definitely appreciate when things are said is actually factual. But anything that you shared tonight that you want to share with me, or you have questions about, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because just if you have said about yourself, I want the very best for our school and our school district. Thank you.
Okay, under the consent agenda, we need to move under D, we need to remove 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those items will be pulled from the consent agenda. So the only items we'll be voting on would be A, B, C, D, 3 under D, and 4 under D. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Mr. Williams, I have questions before we go into that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so community and schools, I know that tell me about that program, Dr. Carpenter. Is that something that we're currently, I know that we have done some work with them, but is that currently what we're looking to do? And is that different from another grant that we had received where the money was cut down or completely done away with?
Point of order, Chair Williams.
Go ahead.
Point of order, the consent agenda is not designed for discussion items. If there's a question on anything that's on the consent agenda, it needs to be
Once the
pulled.
motion, once we do the motion, correct?
No, at all. There's no discussion on consent agenda items. So if there's questions about anything on the consent agenda, it should be removed from the consent agenda and talked about as an action item separately.
Okay, so let's move C. And everything under EC contracts and everything under, which I think you said, but definitely C, and then the other remaining things.
Okay, you said, what about EC contract?
I have some questions about these EC contracts that we have. I mean, it was pretty late when we got all of this information, so I'm sure no one had time to completely read all of it, but I did kind of skim through it, and I do have some questions about that. So it sounds like we need to remove it and act on it separately according to the attorney.
Well, they've all been removed with the exception of the EC contracts that are little I3 and little I4. All other ones have been removed from the agenda tonight and will come back to the board at a later meeting.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but
Questions about 3 and 4?
and a question about C.
Okay, so we discussed C now.
Well,
Should we go and vote on the ones on
we
the
should
agenda?
vote on A and B, which is the remaining consent agenda.
Okay, so it'll be A, B,
A and B. That's it.
okay, what about 3 and 4 under?
I think she pulled those for discussion.
That's what I was trying to ask Mr. Williams, was she talking about everything that was related to EC?
I have no idea.
Ms. Burt Robinson.
That
Okay.
is correct. Everything that has a contract for EC needs to be pulled.
We have,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with action item, 9A and B.
Second.
it's been motioned by Ms. Hale and second by Ms. Robinson. That the consent agenda, A and B be approved. Are there any questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Ms. Kim Robinson,
Aye.
motion passes. Okay, you have a question about communities in school, Ms. Barrett Robinson?
Yes, my question remains the same. How are we utilizing that service? I guess is the first question, Dr. Carpenter, I need to ask, because I know that there was another grant that we had and the money, we weren't going to get that money. So we were kind of doing away with that. So I wanted to know, what support is this community and schools? What will they give us? What kind of support for our students?
Yeah, so this is almost a renewal or for approval tonight. As you know, We've had communities and schools. I know at least during the 21-22 school year. When I first got here, don't know how many years preceding that. And Communities in Schools is a national organization and program with state level structures that provides preventive measures for students who would typically be at risk to ensure that they remain engaged in school. And then it also has a proactive piece. And when I say structures, it means they are people with protocols, and they are trained to re-engage students who may have be at risk of dropping out or have dropped out, or demonstrating signs due to attendance that they are re-engaged back in school. So it's prevention and reaction.
Thank you, Mr. Futrell.
All right, EC contract, Ms. Jared Robinson.
Well, I think that just, that
Just a
covers,
Just a minute, Ms. Jared Robinson.
I think, since these are two separate action items, we now would need a motion for under community and schools.
Okay, I'll come back to you. We're gonna do a motion on community schools, Ms. Jared Robinson. Okay, do I have
Mr. Williams, I have one quick question. Does Weldon have, times past, Weldon didn't have to put any money into it? And last few times, Weldon has had to make some type of contribution to the Weldon City student. Is there an expected amount of money that Weldon would pay for this year?
Yes, it's listed in the contract.
You know the amount?
Like 25,000. I don't know exact down to the cent. I don't have, oh, you know what? I got it right here. I did bring a copy, just in case.
24,000 divided.
The amount that the school district will be responsible for.
Okay.
$24,000.
Yes.
Okay, on the back of the second page. All right.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
because there are questions, is that something we can, so that specific questions can be asked? Is that something that we can wait and do once we come back out of closed?
Well, the only question was the amount, which was 24,000. So then we can vote on it now.
I have additional questions, but it'll be specific names. Because I'm trying to see if this is the same program that we were, the budget was gonna be, the monies were gonna be cut. And we said we could not fund, so.
I'm not for sure which program you're referencing, but this is a standalone program. National organization. It's been in place for years. It's not attached to any other program that's in Weldon City.
So all of the funding, you're saying that the district would have to pay 25,000 in addition to what's already there, correct?
24,000.
24, okay. Yeah, so how do we remove this from, and have some discussion on this in closed session?
Well, this isn't a closed session item. This contract isn't a closed session item.
No, so do I have a motion for the community and schools? Is there a motion?
I got a question. Is this the same one that we had this last year?
Same program, same contract.
So who was the person last year? I mean, did we have someone in place?
We had someone in place last year.
We did,
Yes.
okay.
It is their responsibility, as this contract says, to have what they're responsible for, is putting someone in place.
So they're responsible.
They're responsible. Once you agree to the contract, they are then responsible for the, putting someone in place. That is
But
not
we, but we have to support it and pay the 24,000.
You, Weldon City Schools is responsible for the 24,000.
Where's it money from?
I know last year it was paid out of federal, I call that. The federal fund? I don't have to get with the finance to be certain, but I believe, I thought that was what community school. Yeah.
The high school, it came out at 195, so they had to find another funding source, 195 transferred to the elementary school, so I don't know what.
So it was earmarked for 195, but,
195 is for what?
said targeted systems that are CSI?
Yeah. It's schools that since the kids were supposed to, they want to drop out.
Right.
So this is academic support. So, 195 is on a student improvement, CFI and LP grant.
So it is part of it. I make a motion to approve the contract for community schools. Second.
It's been motion by Ms. Hill and second by Ms. Harrison, that the community and schools contract be approved. Are there any questions?
Question. Dr. Robinson, you said 195, PRC 195.
I think it's 195.
Because 195, I'm looking at
5, one of those PRCs is CSI, is a CSI LP grant, for the state for local performance school. So, elementary school has it now.
Yeah, because it says, wait, go. Up here.
So the high school had it, and then the high school got out of local performance status, and so that money shifted, the grant shifted straight to elementary school.
So this person, is this person gonna be for the elementary or the high school?
It's for the high school, the community schools serve the high school, so they have to find a new funding source for that, particular, position. So I'm not sure how it was funded this year, I know they paying me, so I can't remember if they used,
Question.
I know they didn't use Title I, because I know I was in Title I.
So I'm just trying to get an understanding. It's gonna come out of 195. It's 24,000. Because there's monies available here according to this until September 2024.
But it's not for, high school doesn't have access to 195.
No.
Is earmarked for elementary school now,
Exactly.
because, elementary school is now local performance, and the high school is not, so that funding is shifted. So if you're gonna support, community schools, they'll have to come out another funding source. So, take for instance, the high school has Title I, and I think that's all I need to have right now. I mean, the other way to pay for it, I just don't know how they decide to pay for it when they bought it to me, and I said, there's no more money for the high school to pay for it, I think probably have the funding source, but I can't remember. What it was, off the top of my head.
Point of order.
Fred Robinson.
Question. Mr. Futrell, is this different from, is that grant that we have, is that totally different from the WIA or IO?
Yeah, this is different from the WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. It
So
is
those
a
are two different positions.
separate program.
And just to clarify for you, this is Carolyn Murkison, the staff person that serves as the student support specialist under this agreement is someone that's provided by the communities and schools. That person is at the high school, but it's not an employee of Weldon City Schools. So just to clarify,
You just paid 24,000.
you just pay 24,000 to help facilitate, to help offset some of the costs that that they're having in the program. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
When we receive information such as this, we should have all the information, especially of what line item we're gonna be paying out of, so we can make intelligent decisions when making our vote. We just can't guess where it might come from. We need to know exactly where we plan to expend money from. And that goes back to what I've said before tonight, that everyone needs to be accountable. And we need to get the information we need and just not make fly-by-night decisions that may not be correct in the long run. We need to know upfront where we're spending, what we're spending, and how we're spending it.
Okay, any other questions? Then no other question, all those in favor, aye? Yes, we will roll call. Michelle,
I would like to know where the spending is coming from.
yes or no?
I would like to know where
I
the
mean,
funding is coming
you
from.
gotta go, yes, go. Community-
Does- I'm for the program, but I want to know where the funding is coming from.
Ms. Barry Robinson,
I would also like to know that. So is that something that can be tabled until we get that information, especially considering our budget issues that we have going on?
We're in the middle of it.
yeah, you need to give me a vote, because the motion was passed and second, and I started to poll the members to see which way you stand. So I need your vote.
You can come back to me, Mr. Williams. Thank you.
Ms. Harrison, Ms. Jenkins, Ms. Kim Robinson,
Nay, until further information is given.
Reverend Sykes,
My vote is no, Mr. Williams, because we have not identified a funding source.
okay,
And I want the record to reflect that with my vote.
okay,
I'm not voting against the students, but with the current budget that we got going on, we need to know where it's being funded from. And with Dr. Robinson saying that 195, it can't be paid out of that anymore. We don't know where it's coming from.
okay, and
Right.
and my vote is yes, so the motion carries. For communities in school.
Did you go back and do it, Ron? I think we should actually go back.
Okay. Ms. Barry Robinson, I can go back.
Oh.
Ms. Barry Robinson,
If you say you have 4, Mr. Williams, go ahead, because again, I need to know where the money is coming from.
what is your vote? I'm sorry I didn't go back to you.
That's okay.
So your vote,
No, until I find out, until I can know about the money. But I want it to, be known that I'm definitely in support of everything we can do for our children. But the way this money is, I need to know where it's coming from.
okay, next would be EC contracts, Ms. Barry Robinson.
Well, one, we didn't have an opportunity to read through all of these contracts because some of them are pretty lengthy. But one of the things that I did want to ask about is why are we contracting with 2 different psychologists?
This is Carolyn Murkison. And I don't have information about your specific needs, but I can say that, I've sat in a lot of board meetings and I do a lot of special education work around the state. And many boards contract with multiple psychologists because there's just so much work to be done and they don't typically provide full-time support. Or one psychologist can't meet all the needs of the district. So it's not uncommon to have more than one contract for psychologists. That being said, that contract has been pulled from the agenda or from the consent agenda. And from the agenda altogether, with the exception of the contracts with CADA, all the other contracts, are being, are gonna come back in another form because they need to be, negotiated and placed on the forms that our office has provided to us. So they'll come back and they'll look a little different when you see it next time. And they won't be consent agenda items, they'll be action items, so you can have questions and have discussion.
So we can do the cater. Okay. Okay, are there any questions about 3 or 4? Any questions about 3 or 4? Okay, then need a motion to approve, 3, the cater blended service contract and the cater service contract. Item 3 and 4 respectively. Is there a motion?
Mr. Williams, I'm motion to approve said contract.
Okay, it's been motioned by Reverend Sison, second by Ms. Jenkins, that the cater contract be approved. Are there any questions? Ms. Berry Robinson?
Aye.
No, any questions?
None.
Okay, Ms. Kim Robinson?
Aye.
No, any question? Do you have any questions, Ms. Robinson?
No.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Berry Robinson?
I said aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay, then, motion passes.
Was that 7 on this week? 7 on.
Oh, I guess so. Okay, we go down to other. NCSBA student contest, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, each year, the North Carolina School Board Association, at its annual conference in Greensboro in November, have student contest winners present and showcased. And this year, we would like for our students and our scholars in Weldon City School to participate. I don't know when if they have ever participated, but not since I've been on the board. And we talk every year about them participating, but they haven't. So this year, I've already forwarded the information to Dr. Carpenter for her to share with the elementary, middle, and high schools principals to make sure that we are represented in some sort of way with these contests. Our students are bright and willing, and so I know we will be excited to see them listed on the board as winners and participants. So if we can get them to participate in this North Carolina School Board Association student contest and be contestants against others students across the state, we would love to have that happen. Thank you.
Okay, NCSBA Board Training Program, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, as stated before, there are some funds in ESSER that can be utilized for the North Carolina School Board Association training for board members. There was $50,000 set aside for the retreat that has not been spent. And so I know that there is funding available through ESSER for $10,000 or less for the board training. Thank you.
Okay, next we have HR assistant.
Yes, sir, that's me. Tonight we've come to, hopefully we can see that this, we really need some assistance in HR. There should be an in-person exit interview for every employee and an onboarding procedure in person as well. We've requested through HR in the past that we meet, that new hires come to our next following board meeting so we know who they are and get to know them. That has not happened. We really need HR assistance. Well, we only need to release employees once all items have been received from them, such as keys, passwords, computers, phones, all Weldon City School property. and it needs to be signed off upon by their immediate supervisor. So there's information that we're gonna need and that belongs to Wellness City Schools. We need to make sure we have it before they leave. As of right now, I'm not sure that's happening. In fact, I know it's not happening. Such as tonight, we had to receive information from our attorney regarding the DPI rules regarding licensure. When we pay people to know that and advise us on that, this assistance is really needed, and we're doing our employees, our students, and our community a disservice by not having someone in place at this very moment. Thank you.
Need a motion to go back into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Kim Robinson. Second by Robert Sykes. Go back into closed session. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we can ready to go back into closed session.